Chapter 2677. No chance to survive even though surrendered. I'll be the new leader of the Dragon Divine Gang from today. I wonder if any of you disagree? Jian Wushuang's voice rang in the ears of everyone present, making all the Dragon Divine Gang's Heaven Ultimate Gods astonished. A hint of anger rose from the bottom of their hearts after a brief moment of stupor. It was not surprising they were agitated by a stranger who came out of nowhere and broke into the hall before claiming to be their new Dragon Divine Gang master. They would feel better if the person was a peak Heaven Ultimate God. But Su-Han, who plunged into the gang leader's seat, was only emanating the aura of a high-level Heaven Ultimate God. Did that person who was just a high-level Heaven Ultimate God want to be their leader? What a joke. Your Excellency is too full of yourself. Although the Dragon Divine Gang is just an ordinary third-rate sect, not anyone can just barge in and bully us, said the graceful red-clothed woman in a deep voice. The purple-haired middle-aged man shouted in a very low voice, "Humph! You're just a high-level Heaven Ultimate God, while we still have 5 high-level Heaven Ultimate God here. You won't make it into the list even if we were to vote for a new leader. Get lost." The others were also glaring fiercely at Jian Wushuang. "It seems that all of you are not willing. If that's the case..." Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently and just cracked a smile. Buzz! He discharged an earth-shaking sword intent before completely displaying his 10,000 miles sword world. The terrifying sword world oppressed the audience and shocked all of them. There were nearly 30 people present, with all of them being at the level of a Heaven Ultimate God. Yet their expressions changed drastically under the sword world's shock and oppression. It's Principal World. What a terrifying Principal World. It's only at Profound Realm, but gives me the feeling that it's no less than a complete Principal World realm. Oops, the deterrent effect of this Principal World is so strong that it has greatly restricted my strength. Is Su-Han going to attack us? All the Heaven Ultimate Gods were frightened and were ready to take action. Jian Wushuang made a move under their gaze. Buzz! His figure disappeared out of thin air and reappeared next to the purple-haired middle-aged man, as though he teleported. This speed! The purple-haired middle-aged man's eyes went wide. He was a dignified and honorable high-level Heaven Ultimate God, yet incapable of reacting to Jian Wushuang's terrifying speed. Jian Wushuang casually tapped his sword against the purple-haired middle-aged man's divine body, before his figure became blurry and faded away again. Jian Wushuang's phantom-like body hurtled around the hall as he appeared and disappeared next to all the Heaven Ultimate Gods like a flickering star. Those Heaven Ultimate Gods failed to capture Jian Wushuang or organize any attacking strategy. Clang! 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 There was a series of low grunting sounds when Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword tapped on all the Heaven Ultimate Gods. However, Jian Wushuang did not use his divine power. He just wanted to make them tremble. Jian Wushuang was back in the main seat again, after a while, with his Blood Mountain sword sheathed as the sword world that flooded the hall slowly vanished. Jian Wushuang wore a faint smile and commented, "Am I qualified to be your leader now?" The hall fell silent. Almost 30 Heaven Ultimate Gods were staring at Jian Wushuang in horror. It was too fast. Jian Wushuang was too fast. They were incapable of reacting in time. In that very short time, Jian Wushuang used the body of his long sword to tap on each of them once. They would have died in that short time if Jian Wushuang used his sword's edge to cut their heads instead of the flat side. Too strong. It was too fast. He can kill us like killing chickens with this terrifying speed. Not only the primary level Heaven Ultimate Gods, but even the high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods won't be spared. He's only a high-level Heaven Ultimate God. How can his speed possibly be so fast? It's space-time strangulation. His perception of the space-time law must have reached the second stage space-time strangulation. Otherwise, he won't be so fast. In addition, he's assisted from the great shocking effect of his sword world. Although he looked like just a high-level Heaven Ultimate God, he's more terrifying than a genuine peak Heaven Ultimate God. It's not easy for a peak Heaven Ultimate God to kill us, but he can easily kill us. The Dragon Divine Gang Heaven Ultimate God looked at Jian Wushuang in awe. Experts were highly respected in the world. It was the same in Dragon Divine Gang. They initially thought just a high-level Heaven Ultimate God, such as Jian Wushuang, was not qualified to be their leader. But no one dared to think as such at that moment. Surrender or die, choose for yourself. Jian Wushuang spoke again with his cold voice at that moment as a faint killing intent filled the hall. The Dragon Divine Gang's high-level heaven ultimate gods shuddered. Long Shan is pleased to meet the gang leader. Long Shan, the bald old man, was the first to bow down to Jian Wushuang and surrendered to Jian Wushuang. This old thing. Didn't he insist we should fight the Purple Beast Alliance master just now? The graceful red-clothed woman and the purple-haired middle-aged man were both irritated. They did not know that Long Shan was not courageous, but only loyal to the deceased Dragon Divine Gang master, and wanted to avenge his leader, who was killed by the Purple Beast Alliance master. He was of course not willing to surrender. However, Long Shan chose to surrender to Jian Wushuang without hesitation because Jian Wushuang had nothing to do with the Purple Beast Alliance on top of being incredibly powerful. Those who don't surrender, are you seeking death? Jian Wushuang's cold eyes glanced at the graceful red-clothed woman and the purple-haired middle-aged man. Master Su Han. The graceful red-clothed woman took a deep breath and solemnly said, Dragon Divine Gang has always respected the strong. Anyone powerful could be the leader. Master, you are indeed qualified to be our leader based on your strength. However, do you know of the Dragon Divine Gang's current situation? Your current situation? Tell me about it. Jian Wushuang looked down. Our gang leader was beheaded by the Purple Beast Alliance master, who gave us a 1-month deadline to submit to them. Otherwise, he'll kill all of us as he wants to wipe the Dragon Divine Gang out. The graceful red-clothed woman did not continue her words. So that's the situation. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. It's easy. I'll handle the Purple Beast Alliance and dismiss them when they are here. Chapter 2678. Purple Beast Alliance dismiss them? The Heaven Ultimate Gods from the Dragon Divine Gang stood gazing at each other. We have already planned on yielding to the Purple Beast Alliance. Our Dragon Divine Gang will naturally honor you as our leader if you manage to resolve the Purple Beast Alliance, said the graceful red-clothed woman. The purple-haired middle-aged man, and the rest standing beside them also nodded, having the same thoughts as the graceful red-clothed woman. How much time is left from the due date the Purple Beast Alliance gave you? Jian Wuxia asked. We still have 3 days. A huge group of masters from the Purple Beast Alliance will arrive after 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. The Purple Beast Alliance master will also be here in person, said the graceful red-clothed woman. They'll come again 3 days later if that's the case. Jian Wuxia smiled indifferently and immediately left with his apparitions. A racket immediately started in the meeting hall after Jian Wuxia left. Everybody, let's discuss this. Can this person really get rid of the Purple Beast Alliance 3 days later? The Heaven Ultimate Gods started discussing amongst themselves. Dong Shui, what do you think? The purple-haired middle-aged man looked at the graceful red-clothed lady. I have no idea. The graceful red-clothed lady shook her head. Although this Su Han is only a high-level Heaven Ultimate God, all of you've seen his strength displayed to the extent we're unable to resist his attacks at all. He's too fast, and it's very simple for him to kill us. He definitely can go up against an ordinary peak Heaven Ultimate Gods with his speed. However, all of you know the Purple Beast Alliance Master's strength. Not only is he a true peak Heaven Ultimate God, but he's also very powerful such that our previous gang master died in his hands. Su Han won't have a high possibility of winning if he goes against the Purple Beast Alliance Master, but he'd at least be qualified to fight him. Aren't you just wasting your breath? The purple-haired middle-aged man rolled his eyes. Haha. I cannot judge if this Su Han can really defeat the Purple Beast Alliance Master and make the Alliance leave. However, I'm sure of one matter. It's something between him and the Purple Beast Alliance, while the Dragon Divine Gang retains its middle ground. It has nothing to do with us if he's really defeated or died in the hands of the Purple Beast Alliance Master. We only need to surrender to the Purple Beast Alliance after everything ends. We'll only need to surrender to him if he's really strong and can make the Purple Beast Alliance leave with his power. Our Dragon Divine Gang won't suffer any losses no matter the outcome, said the graceful red-clothed woman called Dong Shui. That's true. All the Heaven Ultimate Gods around her nodded in agreement. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The experts from Purple Beast Alliance really came attacking them once their time was up. The Purple Beast Alliance was much stronger than the Dragon Divine Gang, with almost 40 Heaven Ultimate Gods when it came to overall strength. The Purple Beast Alliance had gone all out at that moment. The Purple Beast Alliance Master had personally led around 40 Heaven Ultimate Gods, along with many Peak Earth Ultimate Gods, and arrived at the void on top of Dragon City. More than 100 densely packed figures were standing in the void. The Purple Beast Alliance Master was a more than 2 meters tall burly man with purple-colored armor. He was casually sitting on a huge purple-colored throne while engrossingly looking at the black fortress underneath him. A petite old man asked, Alliance Master, 1 month has gone by and there's still no news from the Dragon Divine Gang. It looks like they don't plan to surrender. Shall we directly take action? There's no hurry. The Alliance Master waved his hand. This Dragon Divine Gang is a third-rated clan. Although I've killed their gang leader, they still have many Heaven Ultimate Gods under their control. It'll be a waste if we kill all these Heaven Ultimate Gods. Would be able to include them into our Purple Beast Alliance if they proactively surrender, and therefore once again increase our overall strength. Our Purple Beast Alliance will be considered extremely strong among the third-rated clans in the Danyang continent by then. How about this? Let's give them another hour. We shall directly take action and wipe them out if they still aren't making any moves within the next hour. Noted. The petite old man nodded before opening his mouth and spoke in an austere manner. Those from the Dragon Divine Gang, your 1-month time limit is up. Let us know if you choose to surrender, or we'll wipe you out. My Alliance Master has given his orders to grant you another hour. Our Alliance will take action and wipe out your Dragon Divine gang if you don't respond after the hour. The austere voice which came from the Heaven Ultimate God's mouth echoed mightily throughout the entire Dragon City. Many Dragon Divine Gang experts gathered in a castle surrounded by the huge dragon, located in the center of Dragon City. Each of them had a serious expression on their faces after hearing that voice. We only have 1 hour left, what should we do? The purple-haired middle-aged man was extremely worried. Don't panic. Let's see if Su-Han will take action. We can just surrender in the end if he doesn't, said the graceful red-clothed woman Dong Shui. The Dragon Divine Gang experts could only suppress their fear and continued waiting there. However, their wait did not last long as a figure slowly rose upward in Dragon City. That figure's appearance immediately caught those Dragon Divine Gang experts' attention. It's Su-Han. He has finally appeared. Let's see if he can chase away the Purple Beast Alliance. The Dragon Divine Gang experts looked on in anticipation. At the bottom of their hearts, they preferred surrendering to Su-Han, as the Purple Beast Alliance had previously killed their gang leader, making them resistant to the alliance, as their previous gang leader had always treated them well. Jian Wushuang had already appeared in the void, and before those Purple Beast Alliance experts. The Purple Beast Alliance experts also looked towards him, but none paid him much attention, as they noticed the divine power spreading from Jian Wushuang's body was only at the high-level Heaven Ultimate God, while their alliance had several high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods. You're the Purple Beast Alliance Master? Jian Wushuang had an indifferent smile on his face, as his sight directly landed on the Alliance Master, sitting on the throne, right in the middle of the crowd. The Alliance Master glanced at Jian Wushuang, but was too lazy to reply to him. The petite old man beside the Alliance Master shouted in a deep voice. You aren't one of the high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods from the Dragon Divine Gang. Who are you? Jian Wushuang replied. I'm Su-Han. Unfortunately, I've set my eyes on the Dragon Divine Gang. Hence the Purple Beast Alliance can only return to whence you came from. Jian Wushuang spoke as though nothing mattered. However, the petite old man immediately gave him a strict glance and said, How dare you? Reckless idiot. Where did this idiotic young man come from? The expressions of the Purple Beast Alliance experts turned cold. The Purple Beast Alliance Master calmly said, Kill him. Chapter 2679. 1/Kill. Kill him. Two figures took action at the same time, upon the Purple Beast Alliance Master's order. Those two were the petite old man while the other was an evil-looking woman in black clothes, the left and right guardian of the Purple Beast Alliance. They were both extremely strong high-level heaven ultimate gods. The void seems as though it had been pierced open, as a black sword appeared beside Jian Wushuang, and quietly pierced toward his heart. On the other hand, the petite old man with a golden hammer in each hand directly attacked Jian Wushuang. However, the black sword and golden hammers failed to touch Jian Wushuang's actual body, but traveled through his figure instead. Whoosh! It was unknown when but Jian Wushuang's body had appeared in a nearby void. He seems to have good speeds. The petite young man and the evil black-clothed woman immediately looked toward Jian Wushuang. "I'm not interested in mediocre people," Jian Wushuang mocked, but his eyes were fixated on the Purple Beast Alliance Master. The Purple Beast Alliance Master had extremely strong combat power among the peak heaven ultimate gods, and is especially good at attacking and killing, but his physical protection capabilities can only be considered normal, mumbled Jian Wushuang softly. He also obtained detailed information about the Purple Beast Alliance Master and his expert's true strength. He only dared to appear openly because he had all that information. The Dragon Divine Gang isn't weak, whilst this Purple Beast Alliance is slightly stronger. I can subdue both forces, but I'll have to show my absolute strength to make both forces' experts surrender willingly. I have to kill this Purple Beast Alliance Master neatly. Jian Wushuang had a cold look in his eyes, while the magnificent divine power on his body had already expanded, while a huge amount of golden divine power coagulated like crazy behind his back. The 3,000-meter-tall golden god shadow appeared behind Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye. The golden god shadow was extremely majestic as it looked down at everything in heaven and earth. At the same time, the 7 stars secret technique in Jian Wushuang's body was also unleashed outward. The divine power on his body had immediately skyrocketed the moment he used the 7 stars secret technique. Those below Undying Saint could directly elevate their strength by an entire realm with the 7 stars secret technique scroll 2. Jian Wushuang was only a peak earth ultimate god, but his realm was directly raised to the primary level heaven ultimate god after displaying the 7 stars secret technique. The divine power he emitted was that of a peak heaven ultimate god stage under the black stone's disguise. His aura has strengthened. Peak heaven ultimate god. It's a peak heaven ultimate god's divine power. The expressions of many Purple Beast Alliance experts darkened. Even the Purple Beast Alliance Master, who initially did not pay much attention to Jian Wushuang, also looked at him with a peculiar expression. Jian Wushuang's combat power had been raised to an astonishing level after using both the 7 stars secret technique and divine god of punishment. These two secret techniques should be more than sufficient to kill this Purple Beast Alliance Master. Jian Wushuang secretly smiled. He then directly made his move. His figure had only slightly moved forward, but it ended up with him directly crossing the lengthy distance and appearing in front of the crowd. The speed he burst out in that instant staggered the crowd. This speed! The Purple Beast Alliance Master was also startled. Bang! The Purple Beast Alliance Master banged on his throne's armrest as his divine power was immediately unleashed. His figure was like a primitive beast as he attacked Jian Wushuang. So what if you're fast? The battle between experts has never relied on speed, said the Purple Beast Alliance Master coldly, as a domineering axe appeared in his hand. The axe could be identified as a high-level heavenly treasure, as it looked extremely powerful. As the Alliance Master was about to wave the axe in his hand, Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently before him as he slowly stretched out his palm and pointed at the area Purple Beast Alliance Master was located. A finger-pointing heavenly technique. A simple finger pointing had evoked the space-time energy around that area. The Alliance Master's figure paused in the middle of the air without any warning. Although his body paused, his face still had that hideous expression, along with his one hand raised while still maintaining the action of waving his axe. However, the space-time he was in had already completely paused. A finger-pointing heavenly technique. the divine technique Jian Wushuang comprehended for 9 years, before he barely grasped it. Although he had only barely grasped the technique, and his strength was too low, fully displaying that skill with his perception of the space-time law, at that moment, was not something a usual peak heaven ultimate god could pull off. He could make the space-time an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god, was to fall into an extremely short stasis. The period was extremely short. It was just a moment that was even shorter than the blink of an eye. However, this short moment was enough to decide lots of matters in a fight between experts. It could be seen that Jian Wushuang's figure was unaffected at all, and had already appeared in front of the Purple Beast Alliance Master. The latter remained in his axe-waving position, but without the axe landing the entire time. The space-time where the Alliance Master was in only returned to normal when Jian Wushuang had waved his long sword. The Blood Mountain sword had attacked toward the Alliance Master like a poisonous snake, and was only half a centimeter away from the Alliance Master's head. The Purple Beast Alliance Master could not react in time despite space-time around him, having already recovered. Slurp! The cold sword flitted through mercilessly, and the Alliance Master's head had flown outward as his life had started to fade away. The Purple Beast Alliance Master still had that frightened expression on his face just before he died. How can he be so fast? The corners of his mouth were still mumbling softly. He was in a situation where both space-time and his consciousness was stagnant. He had no idea about what happened during the time his consciousness was stagnant. Therefore, he still thought that Jian Wushuang killed him with incredible speed. He had no idea Jian Wushuang had used divine techniques. Although Jian Wushuang was fast, it was not so exaggerated. My divine power and space-time law perspective are sufficient to fight with an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god. I'm the strongest among the experts of the peak heaven ultimate god stage. Once I display the 7 stars secret technique and divine god of punishment, it's very easy to kill an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god with this almost godlike a finger-pointing heavenly technique. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. The Purple Beast Alliance experts surrounding them looked extremely stunned. In their impression, their Alliance Master was extremely strong since the previous Peak Heaven Ultimate God Dragon Divine Gang leader was directly killed by their Alliance Master. However, their powerful Alliance Master died in someone else's hands at that moment. In addition, it happened so fast. Chapter 2680. Surrender. It was really too fast. In just a short face-to-face moment, their alliance master's head had already been chopped off by somebody even before they had time to react. Cleanly and neatly killed by a sword cut. Why did this happen? Is this an illusion? How is it possible the alliance master was so easily killed? Could this Suhan be a grand ultimate god? Multiple pairs of horrified eyes were glued on Jian Wushuang's body, as the Purple Beast Alliance experts were completely stunned. They were not the only ones, as the Dragon Divine Gang experts inside the Black Fortress were also completely stunned. Although they already knew that Jian Wushuang was strong from early on and could fight the Purple Beast Alliance master, they only thought he could fight against him with a small chance of winning. The result was the Purple Beast Alliance master being killed in a short moment. A Heaven Ultimate God in the Dragon Divine Gang said, "Did you guys notice how the Alliance Master seemed to pause for a short moment just now as though he was completely stunned on the spot?" Yes, Suhan must have displayed some sort of secret skill to cause this, if I guess correctly. The Purple Beast Alliance Master was completely powerless to resist and was directly killed because of this secret skill. What secret skill is that? It can make a person stop completely. I don't know, but it should be a secret skill regarding space-time. The Heaven Ultimate Gods from the Dragon Divine Gang were discussing among themselves. All of them noticed that Jian Wushuang displayed a secret skill, but nobody knew which secret skill it was. They only knew it was an extremely special secret skill, and played a huge part in the Purple Beast Alliance Master's instant death. It was indeed the truth. A finger-pointing heavenly technique was too frightening. Although I've previously barely grasped this skill, I've never used it against anybody yet, and never totally understand its might. I've finally learned about it now. Jian Wushuang stood in the void as he was slightly shocked. He made a move to kill the Purple Beast Alliance Master for two reasons. Firstly, he wanted a clean kill to instigate the best shocking results. Secondly, he wanted to measure the power of the finger-pointing heavenly technique. Jian Wushuang discovered that he had belittled that secret skill after he used it. The Purple Beast Alliance Master was a Peak Heaven Ultimate God. He was considered one of the strongest among the Peak Heaven Ultimate Gods, yet failed to withstand the attack after Jian Wushuang displayed the finger-pointing heavenly technique and entered a stagnated state before inexplicably killed by Jian Wushuang. This skill is really too powerful. Using it with just my current power, nobody among the Peak Heaven Ultimate Gods will be able to withstand it, apart from those who also have a high insight towards the space-time law. I'll be able to directly kill them, as they will be my target once they fail to withstand this skill of mine and enter a temporarily stagnated space-time state. I'll be able to wipe out 90% of the Peak Heaven Ultimate Gods with this skill. If I include my large collection of skills and hidden tricks, I can be considered invincible among the Ultimate Heaven Gods. Jian Wushuang tightened his grips as the piercing look in his eyes intensified. The Purple Beast Alliance Master was dead, but the Alliance's Heaven Ultimate Gods were still there. Many among those Heaven Ultimate Gods were close subordinates of the Alliance Master, such as the petite old man who used hammers, and were loyal toward the Alliance Master. These Heaven Ultimate Gods snapped out of their shock after a short while and reacted. He killed the Alliance Master. Kill him to avenge the Alliance Master. Attack. Many Heaven Ultimate Gods immediately took action and attacked Jian Wushuang under the petite old man's leadership. However, several people did not make any movements. Jian Wushuang glanced across these people as the look in his eyes turned cold. Boom! The scary sword world was directly extended as the Heaven Ultimate Gods attacking Jian Wushuang immediately felt his sword world's suppression. They also activated their principal world in hopes to withstand the sword world. Although their principal world was almost at the profound achievement, their profound achievement worlds would still crumble like chicken coops under the suppression of Jian Wushuang's perfect sword world that stretched for 50,000 kilometers. Jian Wushuang moved his body following that. His ghost-like figure moved as though he was teleporting and appeared beside every Heaven Ultimate God before attacking with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. These primary level and high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods were incapable of reacting under that scary speed. The heaven ultimate gods were mercilessly killed by Jian Wushuang one at a time. The sword slashed out as heads were cut off one by one like harvesting wheat. The Dragon Divine Gang experts in the Black Fortress felt shivers travel through their spines as they observed the occurrences. They were extremely familiar with this scene as Jian Wushuang had attacked them as such 3 days ago, but with reserved strength at that time. However, at that moment, massacre. This is a total massacre. It's just like killing chickens. If Suhan had attacked us intending to kill 3 days ago, would also have been slaughtered by him. The people from the Dragon Divine Gang discussed among themselves with bated breaths. Within less than 2 breaths' time, the Heaven Ultimate Gods who wanted to avenge the Purple Beast Alliance Master, apart from a small number of people who escaped when they saw the situation, had been killed by Jian Wushuang. Among them included the petite old man. The void above Dragon City was covered in a huge amount of blood with the entire place painted a crimson-red color. Bodies fell one by one and landed on the ground below, before being laid spread across the ground, while Jian Wushuang stood alone in the middle of the void with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand, blood still slowly dripping from the blade's edge. He had a cold expression on his face as his cold eyes swept through the experts of the Purple Beast Alliance, who escaped to their surroundings. Surrender or prepare to be wiped out. Jian Wushuang's demon-like voice echoed around the void above the Dragon City. Many of the remaining experts looked at each other when they heard Jian Wushuang's words, and were secretly frightened. The evil black-clothed woman who previously attacked Jian Wushuang was the first to walk forward and respectfully said, "Lord Suhan, I, He Yen along with the Purple Beast Alliance experts are willing to surrender and honor you as our new alliance master." The remaining Purple Beast Alliance's Heaven Ultimate Gods also said in awe, "We're willing to surrender." The Purple Beast Alliance and Divine Dragon Gang were only gangs, not sects nor clans. They only believed in honoring the strongest as their master, as they were formed by a large group of experts with no ideals of absolute loyalty. Anybody strong could be their leader. The remaining people surrendered willingly once Jian Wushuang had shown his absolute frightening strength by killing those loyal to the previous alliance master like the petite old man. Chapter 2681. Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang smiled in satisfaction when he saw the Purple Beast Alliance experts that spread around had surrendered. He then walked towards the Black Fortress located below. In the Black Fortress, the Divine Dragon Gang experts rushed out with the graceful red-clothed lady leading them. The Divine Dragon Gang experts did not hesitate, as they spoke loudly together at that moment. Greetings to the Gang Master. Gang Master. However, Jian Wushuang smiled with a hidden meaning, before pointing at the graceful red-clothed lady. What's your name? Gang Master Dong Shui, replied the graceful red-clothed lady immediately. Dong Shui and Hei Yen, I'm giving both of you 10 days. I want to see the Divine Dragon Gang and Purple Beast Alliance integrated after 10 days, said Jian Wushuang coldly. Integrated? Dong Shui and the evil-looking black-clothed woman were stunned before nodding with full obedience. Both Divine Dragon Gang and Purple Beast Alliance's highest authorities were willing to surrender under Jian Wushuang's feet at that moment. Hence it was not difficult for both parties to completely integrate. In addition, the Divine Dragon Gang and Purple Beast Alliance shall be considered a new clan after the integration. I plan to name this clan Sword Alliance. Does anyone have any opinions? Jian Wushuang swept past the different clans' experts. It did not matter whether those experts were from the Dragon Divine Gang or the Purple Beast Alliance. All of them lowered their heads under Jian Wushuang's gaze. They had completely surrendered to Jian Wushuang so naturally. Nobody dared say anything when Jian Wushuang mentioned a change in the clan's name. Therefore, the first clan that Jian Wushuang had set up in his ancient god domain lifetime, Sword Alliance, was born. In the Black Fortress, Jian Wushuang sat in the private room alone with an interspatial ring at hand. He obtained that interspatial ring from the dead Purple Beast Alliance Master. The previous Purple Beast Alliance Master was a peak heaven ultimate god, and the ruler of a third-rated clan in the Danyang continent. Almost the entire mini resources the Purple Beast Alliance owned were on him. In addition, he had also killed the Divine Dragon Gang Master. Hence his net worth should be quite high. Jian Wushuang immediately checked it in detail, but slightly frowned after the check and was disappointed. This Purple Beast Alliance Master really had a high net worth with many cultivation resources, secret techniques, mystical weapons, and treasures. He also had a lot of primordial stones, a lot more than most peak heaven ultimate gods, to the extent that his net worth would not be a lot different compared to ordinary primary level grand ultimate gods. However, the Purple Beast Alliance Master did not have many divine elixir pills despite his high net worth. Only 500 pieces. 500 divine elixir pills. It had to be understood that those previous gamble fights between Jian Wushuang and the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion disciples had won him around 1,800 divine elixir pills, which was 3 times more than the Purple Beast Alliance Master owned. I thought killing this Purple Beast Alliance Master will get me a batch of expensive divine elixir pills. However, it seems like it won't be that easy, thought Jian Wushuang secretly. However, he was able to understand as divine elixir pills were uncommon and hard to obtain. Most resource trades were carried out using primordial stones, with divine elixir pills rarely used. Just like the Crimson Stone Fort where Yin Suer controlled. She could only get him 800 divine elixir pills despite striving her hardest. In comparison, it seemed quite acceptable for him to obtain these 500 pills from the Purple Beast Alliance Master. As for the 1,800 divine elixir pills he received from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion disciples, it was only because the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was rich. I had almost 1,800 pills, and now I've got another 500 pieces. That's 2,000 plus pieces altogether. There's still a huge difference with the amount I need to make a breakthrough from peak Earth Ultimate God into the primary level Heaven Ultimate God. However, I'm not in a hurry. Jian Wushuang slightly smiled. He had just started implementing his plans, and there were lots of chances to get divine elixir pills in the future. I have a clan under my control now that the Sword Alliance has been formed. Although it's just a third-rated clan of an area, it'll grow large enough to threaten those powerful clans, as long as it continues to expand. Jian Wushuang was very confident with the Sword Alliance. To be exact, he was confident in himself. 10 days later, the Dragon Divine Gang and the Purple Beast Alliance had completed their integration and formed the Sword Alliance. The name Sword Alliance had completely spread by then. In the Grand Hall, Jian Wushuang sat on a golden throne while Dong Shui, He Yin, Long Shan, and the middle-aged purple-haired man, Zi Wang, stood there respectfully. Alliance Master, these are sent by the Corpse Palace's people. They said that both their palace masters send you their greetings. Zi Wang passed an interspatial ring to Jian Wushuang. Corpse Palace. Jian Wushuang slightly frowned. Our Sword Alliance hasn't even thrown our establishment convention yet. Why did this Corpse Palace send us gifts? I don't know. They might want to greet you in advance, said Zi Wang. Jian Wushuang smiled and asked, Greet me? Our Sword Alliance is the integration of the Dragon Divine Gang and Purple Beast Alliance, so we have 2 cities under our control. We are no longer a small clan among those third-rated clans based on the land we own. Won't there be several people fixated on us? Dong Shui spoke. That isn't necessarily the case. Our domain is located at the edge of the Danyang continent and far from those huge clans. Those huge clans don't care much about this place. Although there are 5 clans near us, they are also just third-rated clans. You don't need to pay much notice to the other 4 of the 5 third-rated clans, as their strength is equal to the Purple Beast Alliance. Now that the Purple Beast Alliance and Dragon Divine Gang have integrated into the Sword Alliance, we're much stronger than any of those 4 clans. Only the 5th clan, the Corpse Palace that sent these presents, is slightly nasty. Why? Jian Wushuang looked towards Dong Shui. Alliance Master. Although this Corpse Palace is also a third-rated clan, they are generally stronger than your usual third-rated clans. The Corpse Palace has more than 70 Heaven Ultimate Gods, according to rumors, with 2 Palace Masters. Both Palace Masters are at the peak Heaven Ultimate God stage, with one of them being the top among peak Heaven Ultimate Gods. The previous Purple Beast Alliance Master you killed once fought against that Corpse Palace Master, and was easily beaten, said He Yin. He Yin was originally part of the Purple Beast Alliance, and one of the previous Alliance Master's confidants. She saw the fight between the Alliance Master and the Corpse Palace Master. The power difference was huge. Apart from that, there's also news stating the Corpse Palace deals with the Star Fort, and both of them have a good relationship, continued He Yin. Star Fort. Jian Wushuang's heart moved. He did not know much about Corpse Palace, but he surely knew of the Star Fort. Chapter 2682. Forming an army. The Star Fort was a second-rated clan of a location, and considered one of the strongest among all second-rate clans in the Danyang continent. Its strength was close to that of a first-rate clan. The reason being their Star Fort master was a Grand Ultimate God. They were considered the first-rated clan, as a Grand Ultimate God was personally attending to matters there. People normally would not provoke them, unless it was necessary. This Corpse Palace is related to the Star Fort? Jian Wushuang slightly squinted his eyes. He wanted to carry out his plans, and that meant frantically expanding to their surrounding areas, and had to conquer turf and resources without stopping to expand their strength. The third-rated clans around the Sword Alliance were his main target, hence he would naturally go head-on against the Corpse Palace. The Sword Alliance has just been formed, and there's no hurry to expand it. It's best if we first stabilize it, mumbled Jian Wushuang before glancing at the group of 4 in front of him. Jian Wushuang then ordered, Dong Shui, the many properties in Dragon City will be under your control from today onward. I don't ask for much, as I only want you to stabilize Dragon City, while maintaining its previous benefits without huge problems appearing. He Yin, you're most familiar with the Purple Beast City that was originally under the Purple Beast Alliance's control. I'm placing the Purple Beast City in your hands now. Zi Wang, you'll be in charge of dealing with the other Sword Alliance's internal ordeals, such as getting more experts and so on. All of you can discuss amongst yourself on dealing with matters that you come across in the future, and directly deal with it. Only report to me when it's something important. Yes. Dong Shui, He Yin, and Zi Wang immediately took the orders. The 3 of them were slightly happy and surprised. They had no idea Jian Wushuang would give them such huge authority when he just integrated both clans to form the Sword Alliance. For each of them to manage a city, while also discussing amongst themselves and resolving small and large matters, was equivalent to completely assigning the Alliance Master's rights to them. However, had they not just surrendered and followed this Su Han? Why did Su Han trust them so much? They had no idea Jian Wushuang did not have the time to manage the Sword Alliance unlike them. He wanted to expand indefinitely. There would be too many issues to worry about, such as the Sword Alliance's expansion and strength increase. He would not have so much time to manage these matters at that time. So he ordered his subordinates early on to handle them. About the rights that he divided out, Jian Wushuang also did not care much about them. The world where the strongest had control after all. He alone represented the highest authority in the Sword Alliance. Longshan. Jian Wushuang finally turned and glanced at the bald old man called Longshan. Alliance Master. Longshan also immediately greeted Jian Wushuang. He was slightly worried when Jian Wushuang appointed Dong Shui, He Yan, and Zi Wang with authorities, but had not mentioned him. There's something I'd like to assign you with, said Jian Wushuang. Please go ahead, Alliance Master, replied Longshan. I want to reassign a group of Sword Alliance experts and form the Divine Sword Army, said Jian Wushuang. Divine Sword Army? Longshan was stunned. Forming an army? Dong Shui, He Yan, and Zi Wang also had surprised expressions on their faces. In the Danyang continent, only top powerful clans like the Crimson Stone Fort, Life and Death Tower, and Namwu Palace had formed their legions. The Crimson Stone Fort had the famous Crimson Stone Official Army. During the Crimson Stone Official Army's peak, even their most ordinary army member was a Heaven Ultimate God, and they were not even normal Heaven Ultimate Gods, but the best among their peers, the geniuses from every level. Any random army members from the Crimson Stone Official Army at that time were true elites. They could be described as invincible, as they had high combat powers alongside their special military and magic formations. The Crimson Stone Saint had relied on the Crimson Stone Official Army to expand his territory when he was still alive before finally founded the Crimson Stone Fort, which occupied an entire area in the Danyang Holy Domain. Although the Crimson Stone Fort had declined, and the Crimson Stone Official Army was not as good as they were, many clans were still extremely afraid of them. The four top clans, Namwu Palace, Divine Demon Sect, Life and Death Tower, and Dongfang Clan, had also trained their armies. Although they were slightly weaker compared to the Crimson Stone Official Army, they were still extremely frightening. Many first-rated clans in the Danyang continent had also built their legions or armies, but their effectiveness was low. Longshan could not control himself and asked, Alliance Master, our Sword Alliance has just finished the integration and just been born. No matter what, we're just a third-rated clan right now. Won't it be slightly too inadequate to set up an army right now? It's indeed slightly inadequate. Jian Wushuang also nodded in agreement. Apart from many strong experts, a complete legion not only needs a huge number of martial artists, but also all sorts of similar mystical weapons and treasures. The most important matter is that we also need all sorts of special military and magic formations. These things are extremely valuable. In addition, the fact that every soldier in the legion has a high salary, which totals up to an astronomical number. It's not something the Sword Alliance can endure right now. However, what I want right now isn't a complete army, but only the framework of an army. Zishan, how many Heaven Ultimate Gods does the Sword Alliance have under our control right now? Jian Wushuang asked. If we include ourselves, there's a total of 54 people, 10 high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods while the rest are primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods, replied Zishan. That's sufficient. Jian Wushuang smiled calmly. Longshan, I need you to build for me an army that consists of 30 Heaven Ultimate Gods within a year. Only 30? Longshan's facial expression changed for the better. It's easy. The Sword Alliance has so many Heaven Ultimate Gods. Hence I only need to promise them some benefits, and there'll be many Heaven Ultimate Gods whole join the army. Don't be happy so early on. I have my requirements. Jian Wushuang smiled. Not only do I need these 30 to all be Heaven Ultimate Gods, but I also need them to have extremely strong combat powers among their peers. In addition, You also need to think of ways to guarantee their loyalty. Loyalty? Long Shan frowned. Why? Is there a problem? Jian Wushuang glanced over at him. It's not difficult to find 30 extremely strong Heaven Ultimate Gods. I'll be able to entice many strong Heaven Ultimate Gods to join as long as I promise enough benefits. However, it'll be too difficult to guarantee their loyalty. In truth, our Sword Alliance isn't a clan or family that gives an extremely huge sense of belonging. We're only an ordinary clan consisting of experts joining our Sword Alliance due to benefits. There's an 80% chance of them leaving if the benefits are insufficient. We also don't have any methods to restrain them, said Long Shan. That's true. Jian Wushuang secretly nodded as he knew what Long Shan said was true. We don't need their complete loyalty if that's the case, but only their capabilities to fight for my Sword Alliance. Chapter 2683. A few tens to 100 billion. It's not difficult to make them willingly fight for the Sword Alliance, but we'll need to support them with lots of resources. In another word, we've to give them the benefits they want, said Long Shan. Jian Wushuang of course knew that people work for the sake of benefits. Experts who joined the Dragon Divine Gang, Purple Beast Alliance, Corpse Palace, and even the many powerful forces in the Danyang continent were after benefits offered. They would leave once nothing grabbed their interest. However, those sects and clans were different. They had nurtured their experts for generations. Hence their disciples and followers had a strong sense of belonging. They would fight for their sects and clans, even when there was nothing to reap. To the extent, they might even be willing to give up their lives for their sects and clans. Sword Alliance must be prepared to provide them with lucrative benefits. If Sword Alliance were to win the experts' hearts, they'll find a way to solve matters about resources. All you need to do is to find a way to form an official army as soon as possible. Don't be afraid to recruit too many experts, as long as you find someone suitable, as I won't be limiting it to only 30 people. We can even do 50 or 100. There are 200 million primordial stones in this interspatial ring. Use it for now and come look for me when you run out of primordial stones. Jian Wushuang handed an interspatial ring to Long Shan. Jian Wushuang had heaps of primordial stones on hand, but could not possibly give all of them at once to Long Shan. Jian Wushuang had not fully trusted Long Shan after all. Yes. Long Shan took the interspatial ring with his eyes sparkling in excitement. Okay, all of you may go. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. The 4 people immediately bowed and left. Jian Wushuang was still sitting alone in the hall. Jian Wushuang murmured, I have never really built a sect before. Hence I didn't have any idea about these training resources. However, I now know how important they are. I have a lot of resources now from receiving 1 billion primordial stones at one go when I sold 10 caddies of royal blood gems to the star-picking pavilion. I'm afraid I'll need a lot more if I were to form a decent-sized official army that's willing to fight for me. It seems that I'll have to find Yin Suer. Jian Wushuang immediately left for the sacred palace after having made a decision. He first went for Palace Keeper Sijin instead of directly looking for Yin Suer. In the palace, Jian, what brought you here? Palace Keeper Sijin asked while standing in front of Jian Wushuang. He once told Jian Wushuang to ask help from the 2 sacred palace elders if he needed anything, and for Jian Wushuang to see him only meant that Jian Wushuang must have some important matters to discuss. I need a large batch of primordial stones, replied Jian Wushuang. How much do you need? Palace Keeper Sijin was indifferent. Jian Wushuang asked for divine elixir pills when he first arrived at the sacred palace, which Yin Suer tried her best and managed to get him 800 pieces. Palace Keeper was not surprised if Jian Wushuang would do the same for primordial stones, if that was how Jian Wushuang asked for divine elixir pills. Not many, I'd like to have just a few tens and up to 100 billion of them, replied Jian Wushuang casually. What did you say? Palace Keeper Sijin stared wide-eyed at Jian Wushuang. You think a few tens or 100 billion primordial stones isn't a lot? Jian, you do ask brazenly, don't you? There was an obvious trace of anger in Palace Keeper Sijin's tone. What a joke! Although the primordial stone was far less rare and precious than divine elixir pills, it was used in all kinds of goods exchanges and transactions in the Danyang Holy Domain. Scorpion King was killed because of the blood gems he managed to retrieve from the blood gem mineral vein, which only totaled up to 37 billion primordial stones. It was a huge amount of wealth even for Yin Suer, and managed to slightly lift her pressure due to that batch of primordial stones she got from those blood gems. Yin Suer might not refuse if Palace Keeper Sijin asked her for 100 million to 200 million primordial stones, or even 2 billion to 3 billion primordial stones. However, Jian Wushuang was asking for up to 100 billion primordial stones. What was with his request? Jian, the fort master respects you as someone invited by the old fort master, and ordered us to fulfill your request as much as possible to help you improve your strength. But your request is too much. Why will a peak earth ultimate god like you need a few tens, or even 100 billion primordial stones? Palace Keeper Sijin stared at Jian Wushuang in disbelief. I want these primordial stones because I need a lot of resources to build up a force and expand it, said Jian Wushuang. Build up a force? Palace Keeper Sijin's expression sank before he continued. You should be aware of the situation the fort master is facing now as it is. Do you think the fort master can get a few tens and up to 100 billion primordial stones? I'm afraid she'll have to pay a hefty price for it even if she can. I know, so this time I won't be asking without offering an exchange. I'll give you something in exchange. No, it should be that I'm giving you something in hopes you can help me find a way to liquidate this thing. You'll be getting either divine elixir pills or primordial stones after disposing of this thing, said Jian Wushuang. What is it? Palace Keeper Sijin asked. Jian Wushuang did not intend to continue hiding it as he flipped his hand and took out a blood-colored blood gem the size of a baby's fist. The blood-colored blood gem was the second royal blood gem in Jian Wushuang's hands. The first royal blood gem was only the size of a thumb and weighed 10 caddies. The second one was the size of a baby's fist and weighed more than 200 caddies. This is... Palace Keeper Sijin stared wide-eyed at the blood-colored blood gem. Royal blood gem. This is the royal blood gem. Yes, it's the royal blood gem, and I think this one weighs around 230 caddies. However, I don't know how much it's worth. Jian Wushuang smiled. 230 caddies of royal blood gem? Palace Keeper Sijin drew in a sharp breath of cold air. He was excited while looking intently at the royal blood gem. He was also obviously coveting the royal blood gem, caused by the green-eyed monster in him. Jian Wushuang also noticed the greed in Palace Keeper Sijin's eyes, but was not worried that Palace Keeper Sijin would make a move. Jian Wushuang was trying to honor the agreement with Crimson Stone Saint to help Yin Suer after all. He would be much at ease if Palace Keeper Sijin tried to rob the royal blood gem from him, as he could just leave, and no longer paid any attention to the Crimson Stone Fort's affairs along with Yin Suer's survival in that case. Palace Keeper Sijin would of course not be doing something so foolish. Jianyi, how come you have such a big and heavy piece of royal blood gem? Is this from the blood gem mineral vein? Palace Keeper Sijin exclaimed in a low voice. I obtained this by luck, and it has nothing to do with the mineral vein. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He would of course not admit that the royal blood gem was obtained from that mineral vein. Chapter 2684. Master Mo. Palace Keeper Sijin frowned, but did not press on with further questions. Royal blood gem is one of the main materials for refining holy treasures. It's extremely valuable with many undying saints wanting to get their hands on it. The royal blood gem weighs 230 caddies, so its value must be extravagant. However, it was just too expensive that many experts could not afford to buy it, said Palace Keeper Sijin. That's why I'll hand this royal blood gem to you, so that Crimson Stone Fort can deal with it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Jian Wushuang knew that only star-picking pavilion A smile appeared on Yin Suer's face. 230 Master caddies Mo of isn't royal only blood recognized as in the number entire one refining holy master domain. in the 9 realms Jian of Shuang Golden had Crow, sold 10 caddies but also royal a blood powerful gem undying in the saint. Wuxia territory. His influence at and a way too low resources price. are beyond my imagination.
He had no choice but to
Even
sell
Father
it at
had
a
a
very
lot
low
of
price
respect
to
for
the
Master
star-picking
Mo
pavilion
when
at
he
that
was
time,
alive,
and
because he
didn't
could
dare
not
to
find
rub
someone
Master
else to
Mo in
buy
the
it.
wrong way.
He did not
Master
want to
Mo's
suffer the same
reputation
losses
has always
again.
been good.
In addition,
Many people have
he had
taken
nowhere
the
else
initiative
to sell the royal
to
blood
send him
gem.
some precious
With the
refining
only channel
materials.
he could go through was
I'll
the
also
Crimson
pay a
Stone
good
Fort.
matching price,
The
as
fort
long as
master
the
must have a way
resources
to
are
sell
precious
this
and
off,
rare.
but I'm afraid
On the
IT
other
will
hand,
take a while.
the star-picking
How many
pavilion
resources
only
are you
cares about
asking in
profit,
exchange
for
so
this
they'll
royal
try to
blood
keep
gem,
the price low.
Palace
While Master
Keeper
Mo
Sijin
won't be
asked,
bothered to do
I
so.
only need 10,000
Besides,
divine elixir
Master
pills
Mo should be
and
quite
100
happy to see the
billion
royal
primordial
blood gem.
stones.
Correct.
This piece of royal
Master
blood
Mo will
gem
never be
should
greedy
be worth much
and
more
snatch
than
the
that,
royal
of
blood
course.
gem away.
Hence, he'll
Fort
give the
master
extra
can
safely
safely
sell the
master.
royal blood gem to
Jian
him.
Wushuang smiled.
Palace Keeper
Well,
Sijin
we'll
nodded
go
his
see the
approval
fort
as he
master
had
now
heard
and
of
ask her
Master
to
Mo.
decide. I visit
Palace
him.
Keeper Sijin
I can only
went to
find
see
a way
Yin
to
Suer
get someone
immediately
trustworthy
with excitement
and bring a message
Jian
to
Wushuang
Master
was
Mo.
not in a hurry.
Tell him I
and
have a
waited
royal
quietly
blood
in
gem
the hall.
here.
I
The
don't
royal
know
blood
how
gem
when
weighs
Master Mo will
230
reply to
caddies.
me so.
Yin
Yin
Suer was
Suer
also
narrowed
quite
her eyes.
surprised when she
Go
heard
and
about
ask
it.
Jianyi to
Yes,
hand
I
over
saw
the
it
royal
with my
blood
own
gem to
eyes.
me.
I'll
Answered
try my
Palace
best to
Keeper
deal with
Sijin
it
solemnly.
but I'm unsure
Jianyi
how
has
much
such a
time
large
ITL
piece
will
of
take.
royal blood gem.
I'll have to wait.
Could it be from the
As for what he
interspatial
wants,
ring Scorpion
I
King
can't give
gave
him
him?
much of the divine
Yin
elixir
Suer
pills
squinted before
if he needs that
immediately shook her
cultivation
head.
resources
No,
urgently.
Scorpion
But I
King
can give
is
him
loyal
10
to me
billion
and
of
told me
primordial
exactly
stones
how many
first.
blood gems
He'll
he
give the
received
remaining
from that
divine
blood gem
elixir
mineral
pills
vein
and primordial
with no royal
stones
blood
to
gems.
him.
The
After we
Scorpion
sell the
King
royal
won't lie
blood
to
gem.
me.
Yes,
If that's the case,
Palace
this royal
Keeper
blood
Sijin
gem
responded
must be as he
and went
said.
back to the
He got it
sacred
by
palace.
chance.
It's
Yin
that
Suer
or he
stood
had
with a
probably
wide
hidden
beam
it
on her
in
face.
advance upon discovering the
230
royal
caddies
blood
of
gem
royal blood
when
gem.
the official army
Jianyi
guarded
you've really
over the
helped me a
mineral
lot.
vein. Regardless,
in a hall in the
he got
sacred
it
palace.
using his own ability
Palace
in any
keeper
case,
Sijin had
so we
once
can't
again
penalize
appeared
him.
in front of Jian Wuxuang.
It's true as Jian
Fort
Yi is
Master
still somewhat
requests that you
conscientious
give the royal blood
and
gem
said that
to
he
her
only
first.
needs
Jian Yi
10,000 divine
shall
elixir
find a way to
pills
deal with it,
and 100
but
billion
ITLL
primordial
takes some
stones.
time. After we
Meanwhile,
sold the royal
she
blood
can give you
gem,
10 billion
I'll offer the
primordial
rest of it to
stones
you,
first if you are
said
in
Palace
urgent need
Keeper
of
Sijin.
resources. The price of the
Palace
230
Keeper Sijin
caddies of
retold
royal
Jian
blood
Wuxuang
gem
in Sewer's
is indeed
words.
more than what
All
he
right.
asked for.
Jian
Of
Wuxuang
course,
nodded.
it also
He
depends on who it
understood
is
that
sold
it would
to.
not be easy
In
even
Sewer
if
had a
Ein
cold
Sewer
expression.
personally wanted to
There are
deal with
only
such a
those
large
few among
piece
the
of
9
royal blood
realms of
gem.
Golden Crow
It was normal
who
that
can
she
take up
needed a
this
certain
royal
amount
blood
of
gem.
time.
The
Ein Sewer
star-picking
promised
pavilion
to give Jian
is the
Wuxuang
only
10
chamber of
billion
commerce
primordial
among
stones
those few.
first.
Do you
which
want
was
to
enough
sell
for
it to
him
the
to squander
star-picking
some
pavilion
time.
or
Palace Keeper
Ein Sewer
Sijin
waved and
There are
interrupted
two more
before
matters
Palace
that I need
Keeper
your help
Sijin
for,
finished talking,
said Jian Wuxuang
Although the
again.
star-picking pavilion is the first-ranked chamber
Chapter
of commerce,
2685.
they are the worst choice.
Chief Steward, let's
They
talk.
won't be able to sell the
Palace
royal blood
Keeper
gem
Sijin
for a high
smiled
price
faintly,
unless they
Palace
organize
Keeper
a large-scale
Sijin was
auction
obviously quite
by
happy
gathering various
because of the
experts.
royal blood gem.
Any treasure
I used
can
to
only
be the
be
Northern
sold at its
Darkstar
greatest
territory
value to
lord
those people who
and
really
have a
need
maid
it.
in the Northern
The people
Darkstar
who are most
territory
eager
called
to get it are
Xiao Tiexin.
naturally those
She's
high-level
quite capable of
refining
managing
masters.
resources.
Since this
I
royal
was
blood
separated
gem
from her
is a
since the
refining
life and
material
death
after
tower.
all, and divine
Refining
demon
master
put a bounty on my
Palace
head.
Keeper Sijin
She's
was
probably
puzzled,
still fleeing
but
everywhere
immediately
within
thought
the
of
Northern
someone.
Darkstar
Fort
territory.
Master, are you
Can I
talking
ask
about
Palace
Master
Keeper
Mo?
Sijin to
Yes,
send
it's
someone to
him.
pick her up and send her here to help me?
Jian Wuxuang explained.
This is simple. Just tell me where she is, and I'll immediately send someone to pick her up. It won't take long, said Palace Keeper Sijin. The Northern Darkstar territory was a little far away from the Danyang continent, as it took Jian Wuxuang nearly 40 years to arrive at the Danyang continent. The reason was that Jian Wuxuang did not use the spatial passage to travel between the stellar regions. Palace Keeper Sijin naturally would not mind using the spatial passages. Hence he could quickly travel back and forth between the Danyang continent and the Northern Darkstar territory. There's a second matter, said Jian Wuxuang again. I need some military formations, or some type of special formations that can be used by a few people altogether. Military formations? Special formations? Palace Keeper Sijin frowned slightly. What do you want these things for? Are you trying to form an official army? Just let me handle this. Jian Wuxuang smiled mysteriously. Palace Keeper Sijin shrugged and said, The strongest military formation in Crimson Stone Fort is in the hands of the Crimson Stone official army, and will never be passed on to anyone. Even if the fort master personally asks for it, she may not be able to get it from the Blood Thunder King. However, ordinary military formations and magic formations, such as those military formations used by various stellar regions' official army in Danyang Holy Domain, I can help you get them. I can also get some of those lower-level magic formations as well. Those ordinary military formations and low-level magic formations are more than enough. Jian Wuxuang smiled. The official army he was setting up was not ready yet. Therefore some ordinary military and magic formations were good enough. Wait here for a while, said Palace Keeper Sijin before he turned and left. Palace Keeper Sijin reappeared in front of Jian Wuxuang after nearly half a day, and handed an interspatial ring to Jian Wuxuang at the same time. Here are 10 billion primordial stones and the military formations you asked for. I've already ordered someone to bring your mate here. She'll be here in the Danyang continent in less than 10 days, and he'll send a message to tell you when that happens, said Palace Keeper Sijin. Thanks a lot. Jian Wuxuang thanked him and left after taking the interspatial ring. He did not return to the Sword Alliance, but stayed in the sacred palace to wait quietly. 8 days later, Xiao Tiexin came to Jian Wuxuang under the personal guidance of 2 heaven ultimate gods. Master, Xiao Tiexin looked extremely excited to see Jian Wuxuang again. Shiner, it's been a long time since I last saw you. Jian Wuxuang smiled faintly, and also noticed the divine power of Xiao Tiexin. Xiao Tiexin was still the same as before, just a primary level ultimate god. Xiao Tiexin's strength had not improved at all after so many years. Jian Wuxuang could only secretly sigh. Xiao Tiexin could be regarded as a genius, but she had used some taboo secret techniques, which greatly damaged her foundation and limited her strength. It was becoming way too difficult for her to make a breakthrough after reaching the very top of the primary level ultimate god realm. Xiao Tiexin looked at Jian Wushuang again, after a simple greeting. Master, how far are you now in your cultivation realm? I think the two masters who came to pick me up before seem to be very powerful. Of course they are powerful. They're both heaven ultimate gods after all. Jian Wushuang smiled. Heaven ultimate gods? Xiao Tiexin was shocked. Heaven ultimate gods. In an ordinary stellar region, an earth ultimate god could become the territorial lord and be a respectable ruler. Heaven ultimate gods were simply out of her league, to Xiao Tiexin. However, her master could get two heaven ultimate gods to pick her up in person. How high was her master's cultivation realm? Shiner, come with me first. We'll talk as we go. Jian Wushuang led Xiao Tiexin directly toward the Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang began to explain many things to Xiao Tiexin along the way. Xiao Tiexin was shocked when she found out that Jian Wushuang had already created a powerful alliance with dozens of heaven ultimate gods, and was flattered when she knew Jian Wushuang's purpose in bringing her back. It turns out Master brought me here to help him manage his large alliance. Xiao Tiexin held her hands together in excitement. It did not take long before they returned to the Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang immediately summoned Dong Shui, He Yan, Long Shan, and Zi Wang as soon as he arrived at Sword Alliance. Let me introduce my maid to you, this is Shiner. All the resources and income from various Sword Alliances belongings including the many resources I have on hand will be handed over to her from today onward. You can look for her if you need any primordial stones or resources in the future. Shall be the chief steward of the Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang glanced around at the four people. The four people looked at each other and nodded their heads. They kept stealing glances at Xiao Tiexin a few times in puzzlement. All of them could see that Xiao Tiexin was just an ordinary ultimate god. A primary level ultimate god. She was extremely weak such that anyone from the Sword Alliance was much stronger than her. Why would a person like her be appointed as the chief steward of the Sword Alliance? It seems that the Alliance Master has a lot of trust in her, muttered the four people secretly in their hearts. It was indeed impossible for Xiao Tiexin to control all the resources within the Sword Alliance if Jian Wushuang had no absolute trust in her. The most important matter for a force was wealth and resources. As long as the wealth and resources were sufficient, there would be a steady stream of powerful experts joining the force. That was the true lifeline of a force, and generally, the person in charge was the one who controlled both wealth and resources. Even though Shiner is not powerful, she has the full authority to represent me. Her orders will be mine from now on. You'll be killed without mercy if you dare to violate her authority as the chief steward. Do you understand? Jian Wushuang said coldly. Yes. Dong Shui and the others nodded their heads and very humbly paid obeisance to Shiner at the same time. Okay, all of you may go now. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and the four immediately left. Jian Wushuang looked at Xiao Tiexin after they left. He smiled and asked, Shiner, how do you feel? Somewhat excited. Xiao Tiexin sighed. Master, were those four people just now also heaven ultimate gods? Yes. However, they are your subordinates starting from today. You can order them at any time. Jian Wushuang smiled. Chapter 2686, Divine Sword Official Army. Those heavenly ultimate gods are my subordinates? Xiao Tiexin was a little dazed. Of course. Although your strength is too weak, these people will obey your orders now because of me. However, it will be difficult for you to control them one day if I leave the Danyang Holy Domain. So you've to seize the opportunity and do your best now that I have given you such high authority. You have to cultivate your power as much as possible, all right? Jian Wushuang advised Xiao Tiexin. He was going to leave the Danyang Holy Domain sooner or later, and the Sword Alliance would be left to the care of those he trusted. Xiao Tiexin was the best candidate, but her cultivation realm was too weak, so she must find a way to cultivate her strength. I see. Xiao Tiexin nodded slightly. She was the eldest young miss of a clan, and had gone through a lot, so she would know what to do. This interspatial ring is for you. Jian Wushuang handed an interspatial ring to Xiao Tiexin. After Xiao Tiexin took it, she was shocked after she browsed through its content. Primordial stones. There are so many primordial stones. How many are there altogether? Xiao Tiexin was horrified. Not much, maybe around 2 billion? Jian Wushuang smiled. 2 billion. Xiao Tiexin gaped. She became a little emotional, and was unable to calm down for quite some time. 2 billion primordial stones isn't much to form an official army in the Sword Alliance. To do so will cost a lot of primordial stones. Long Shan will ask you for primordial stones. You can give it to him as long as his request is for the official army. I'll give these 2 billion to you first. Come and look for me if it's not enough, said Jian Wushuang. Understood. Xiao Tiexin nodded firmly. You are too weak. Go see Dong Shui and get her to find 2 powerful and reliable guards to be your followers. Go on then. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Xiao Tiexin immediately left. In the palace, Jian Wushuang sat on the throne and tapped his fingers on the armrest. The current Sword Alliance has just formed, and the official army has just been established. I'd better just stay put before the Divine Sword official army combat prowess becomes powerful. Jian Wushuang faintly smiled and soon went into seclusion. He wanted to take the opportunity of his seclusion to absorb those divine elixir pills. Earlier, he managed to get nearly 1,800 divine elixir pills from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion disciples, and 500 divine elixir pills after slaying the Purple Beast Alliance Master. He had nearly 2,300 divine elixir pills at hand. The pure divine power from those divine elixir pills was too much even with his refining speed. It would take a long time for him to absorb and refine all of them. It took a year and 3 months before those nearly 2,300 divine elixir pills were finally completely absorbed and refined by Jian Wushuang. Just as he expected, he still failed to break through to Heaven Ultimate God Realm after refining all those 2,300 divine elixir pills, but was not too far from it. Jian Wushuang estimated he would need at most 2,000 more divine elixir pills to make a breakthrough to the primary level Heaven Ultimate God Realm. Once he became the Heaven Ultimate God, he would once again usher in a qualitative change to his strength. There would not only be a huge increase in the level of divine power, but the key was the many secret techniques he cultivated would also greatly improve. In the void above Dragon City, Jian Wushuang, Xiao Tiexin, and Long Shan were walking alongside each other, with 2 extremely powerful primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods behind him. Those 2 primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods were chosen by Xiao Tiexin to protect her. It did not take long for the group of people to arrive over a huge camp. Alliance Master, this is the Divine Sword official army barracks. I'll gather all the soldiers, said Long Shan before heading toward the camp. Shiner, how many primordial stones did Long Shan take from you? Jian Wushuang asked. I've given him 1.5 billion. 3/4 of the 2 billion primordial stones you gave me have been given to him, replied Xiao Tiexin. It took more than a year to spend 1.5 billion primordial stones. This Divine Sword official army should have begun to take shape, commented Jian Wushuang. The many soldiers of the Divine Sword official army soon gathered together, and were divided into 5 rows, standing in lines. Jian Wushuang stood high in the sky and looked down. There were a total of 50 soldiers, each wearing black armor, with special secret patterns. That black armor was a heavenly treasure-level defensive armor with an amazingly high value. Each of them was worth about 15 million primordial stones, 50 pieces. The defensive armor alone cost nearly 800 million primordial stones. Those soldiers were exuding an amazing divine power breath, with every single one of them being a heaven ultimate god. They were the elites among the heaven ultimate gods. 50 soldiers stood there carrying a very strong breath of combat power. Jian Wushuang and Xiao Tixin immediately went down and appeared in front of Long Shan. Alliance Master, you told me that it's enough to form a 30-member official army in a short period, but we now have 50 members, thanks to the rich resources provided by Miss Sheener. All these 50 very capable people are Heaven Ultimate Gods elites. In addition, they have mastered most of the military formations you gave them. There are 5 members in a small team. Each team comprises a high-level Heaven Ultimate God and 4 primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods. They have great combat power when paired with the military formations, said Long Shan. Not bad. Jian Wushuang nodded approvingly. His first impression of the Divine Sword official army was good. Jian Wushuang suddenly got startled as he noticed 3 people seemed to look the same among the 10 soldiers standing in the front row. Even their divine power breaths were also the same as all 3 of them were high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods. Who are those 3? Jian Wushuang pointed at those 3 people. Those are the 3 brothers of the Zhao family. The 3 of them are triplets. Long Shan smiled and then he shouted, Zhao Tianshan, Zhao Tianhe, and Zhao Tianhai step out. Each of the 3 Zhao brothers was extremely beefy and tall, like 3 small hills. They immediately stepped forward after hearing Long Shan's comment. At the same time, the 3 brothers were also looking at Jian Wushuang. Brother, who's that person? Zhao Tianhai asked. I haven't seen him before, but Long Shan has a very high status in the Sword Alliance. The only person who will be treated with such respect must be the Sword Alliance Master, said Zhao Tianshan. Sword Alliance Master? How is he only a high-level ultimate god realm? Isn't he in the same realm as us? Zhao Tianhe muttered. It's kind of interesting that the triplets not only look the same, and so are their cultivation realm. Jian Wushuang smiled. He had also met a pair of twin brothers when he was walking in the Dark Thunder territory of the Northern Darkstar territory. The twin brothers had excellent tacit understanding and even created a set of fusion attack techniques. Their strength was quite extraordinary. Those high-level Heaven Ultimate God triplets looked rather extraordinary. Chapter 2687. The three Zhao brothers, the three of you, hurry up and meet the Alliance Master, shouted Long Shan in a low voice. The three Zhao brothers hesitated. Zhao Tianhai, the youngest of the three brothers, strangely said, Commander Long Shan, is he really the Alliance Master? How come he's just a high-level heaven ultimate god like us? He doesn't look very powerful. Jian Wushuang was startled when he heard that. How presumptuous! Long Shan yelled, and was just about to scold them. It doesn't matter. Jian Wushuang waved his hand before slowly stepped forward, looked at the three brothers and faintly smiled. What do you think is necessary to become an Alliance Master? The Sword Alliance controls ape was tumbling around with its mystical energy extremely strong among the third-rated forces. Fiercely flexed its sturdy arm, and now that they even have the Divine Sword official army, earth-shattering the Alliance Master has to be right down at Heaven Ultimate God. Bang! Said Zhao Tianhai. There was a loud noise from the collision of the towering sword shadow with the mystical fist. Sometimes a person's died down along with the sword shadows represent everything. This mighty power is even stronger than that I'm not powerful enough to become the Alliance Master. Jian Wushuang was a little surprised forces and fight against me retreated and see who wins. A part of that terrifying power acted on Jian Wushuang's divine body. Was surprised, but it could not do Alliance much to Master, him. Are you sure? Alliance Master, the eldest is this brother? All you've got? Zhao Tianshan, a magnificent voice came from the black mystical ape. We three brothers have a good inside the black mystical ape and work extremely well together. Zhao brothers shone with intense excitement. Each of our combat powers is already extremely strong among the high-level heaven ultimate and had improved their strengths together. We can fight with a peak heaven ultimate. They had also created a fusion attack when the three of us worked together, which allowed their combat power. I'm looking forward to it even more to become far greater than their individual strength. Jian Wushuang beckoned at the three brothers. Seemed to be just high-level heaven ultimate gods at first glance, and knew what each other was going to do next without even mystical ape. Whoosh! Even a peak ultimate god had to retreat. Those three hill-like figures being underestimated. Their divine power laughed instead of being angry upon hearing the black mystical ape, like three living beasts, and made a move again. The three of them appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye behind him and attacked while he was same time with their sabers into a 5,000-foot-high golden god shadow. Bam! In the blink of an eye, bright saber lights. His phantom was much taller and stronger than the three Zhao brothers' black mystical ape. Different directions. Jian Wushuang raised the blood-mountain sword with both hands and sent out the sword again. He still did not use any sword Wushuang's figure. It was just leaving him with no possibility of evading. But when the long sword was sent out, between these three is impeccable space-time strength. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly, integrated into that sword strike. He immediately drew out his blood mountain sword and mustered his divine power. As the long sword fell. The sword light was more powerful than the one Jian Wushuang performed sounds of collision. The most important matter was the two space-time blades contained in the sword light. Although he's only a high-level heaven ultimate god, the void frantically divine power breath under the sword light's very close to a peak heaven ultimate brothers god. In the black mystical brothers seemed to have sensed the sword light's power and dared not be older brothers. They immediately used their full divine power, causing the black mystical ape to roar again before instantly swung out its two sturdy arms, rumbling. However, an extremely violent black mystical ape with a height of 100 feet strangling power appeared out of thin air and instantly smashed the trio's mystical ape's arms. The black mystical ape, the three Zhao brothers were surprised and immediately retreated its head back and roared as soon as it appeared. The roar came with a terrifying sonic attack. The long sword in his hand was placed horizontally and slashed again. The black mystical ape, the sword driven by the blood mountain sword's power, smashed the black also capable of executing fusion attack techniques. Jian Wushuang's divine power was close to a peak heaven ultimate god. The black mystical ape, the power of his sword every attack had greatly leveled up peak heaven with the divine god of punishment Jian Wushuang before lunging forward. And the two space-time blades was already in front of the black mystical ape. Space-time law. A huge sword shadow formed out of thin air upon a sudden wave of his blood mountain sword in his hand. 7 absolute city boom. 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 Jian Wushuang treated the blood mountain sword in his hand like a stick and struck the black mystical ape again and again. His terrifying power erupted completely, and the black mystical ape obviously was unable to resist. It kept retreating and stumbling backward. The divine power breath in the mystical ape was also fading crazily. Alliance Master, we surrender. We surrender. Alliance Master, please be merciful. The voices of the three Zhao brothers resounded from inside the mystical ape. Jian Wushuang disregarded their pleas and carried on with the attack. He suppressed the black mystical ape until it completely collapsed and disintegrated before finally stopping. Now, do you think him qualified to be the Sword Alliance Master? Jian Wushuang smiled and looked at the three Zhao brothers. However, his smile made the three Zhao brothers shudder with eyes full of horror when they looked at Jian Wushuang. How can this be? He's obviously only a high-level heaven ultimate god. But why is his power so strong? We three brothers are the best at power. The black mystical ape formed by our fusion attack technique is also based on power. Even an ordinary peak ultimate god would retreat when facing our black mystical ape. But the Alliance Master had completely relied on his power to crush us. Awesome! Alliance Master is simply amazing. The three brothers secretly admired. The three of them were simple and honest. They only honored the strong as their leader. They were a little unconvinced when they saw that Jian Wushuang, the Sword Alliance Master, was just a high-level heaven ultimate god like them. However, they were convinced after the battle where Jian Wushuang crushed them with his power. The fact that Jian Wushuang crushed their best-performing technique had gained their recognition. Alliance Master, how do you feel? Long Shan and Xiao Tiexin walked over to Jian Wushuang. The three Zhao brothers are not bad. The three of them can compete against an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god. As for the other soldiers, I've not fought with them, so I can't see where their level of strength is. Let's do this. They can come and train with me together tonight, said Jian Wushuang. Yes. Long Shan nodded. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky. Jian Wushuang set off with Long Shan and the 50 soldiers of the Divine Sword official army. A large group of figures was skimming along on the void. Alliance Master, where are we going? Long Shan, who was by Jian Wushuang's side, asked quizzically. Don't ask first. You'll know very soon. Jian Wushuang smiled. Long Shan dared not ask further. Their group traveled all night and finally appeared before a big city in the morning the next day. That's the 7 Absolute City? Long Shan was shocked when he saw the city before him. 7 Absolute City belongs to the 7 Absolute Palace. Alliance Master, do you want to attack the 7 Absolute Palace? Why can't I? Jian Wushuang smiled. He had planned it a long time ago. There were 5 major forces in the Sword Alliance, all of which were only third-rated forces, with the Corpse Palace being the strongest. The Sword Alliance was formed not long ago, and while the Divine Sword official army was being created, he had been holding back on making a move. However, he no longer needed to hide his plan, and began to expand after the Divine Sword official army development. The 7 Absolute Palace was one of those third-rated forces, and Jian Wushuang was determined to take it down in one blow. Alliance Master, the 7 Absolute Palace is a third-rated force after all. Not only is its strength not weak, but is also complicated. Should we put this down on a long-term plan? Long Shan asked worriedly. It was not a trifling matter to attack a third-rated force. Under normal circumstances, Jian Wushuang should have gathered many high-level experts in the Sword Alliance to carefully discuss it, and best to make full preparations before doing it. However, there was obviously no preparation on that other day, when Jian Wushuang brought the Divine Sword official army there to immediately attack them. Why the trouble to only take down a third-rated force? Let's go directly into 7 Absolute City, and behead all the high-level 7 Absolute Palace experts, and then suppress them by force. Those who dare disobey us shall be killed without mercy. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold with a solemn expression. Long Shan tried to gulp down some saliva to stay calm, but did not dare to persuade Jian Wushuang anymore. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In just a few moments, many Divine Sword official armed soldiers broke into 7 Absolute City under Jian Wushuang's leadership. Naturally, the high-level 7 Absolute Palace experts immediately noticed the large group of experts that suddenly broke in. The figures of their experts rose into the air. Some restrictions and formations from 7 Absolute City have also been activated. In the center of those experts stood a black-robed old man with an extremely cold and evil aura. He appeared in front of Jian Wushuang while being surrounded by many experts. The black-robed old man was a peak heaven ultimate god, obviously the 7 Absolute Palace Master. Who are you? The 7 Absolute Palace Master looked cold as he turned toward Jian Wushuang. Sword Alliance Su Han, answered Jian Wushuang. The 7 Absolute Palace Master's face sank. People from the Sword Alliance. We never had any frictions and struggles between our two forces, since the Sword Alliance's establishment. What's going on here? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. I'm here for a very simple purpose. Your 7 Absolute Palace's location being right next to my Sword Alliance. I've been eyeing this 7 Absolute City for a long time. So you can choose between you surrendering to the Sword Alliance or perish. Your choice. Presumptuous. The 7 Absolute Palace Master was furious. The many 7 Absolute Palace experts were gawking at Jian Wushuang angrily. They were both a third-rated force. Yet the Sword Alliance Master brought a large number of experts to their city and demanded them to directly surrender? How could they be willing? Su Han, I've heard that your Sword Alliance has integrated the previous Dragon Divine Gang and Purple Beast Alliance. Besides, you've also recruited members on a large scale this year. Your strength is already extremely strong, but you shouldn't be too arrogant. Do you want to take my 7 Absolute Palace down with just a few of you here? I'm afraid you won't be successful, said the 7 Absolute Palace Master coldly. Does this mean that you want surrender? Then there's nothing more to say. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold for a moment. Endless golden divine power emerged from Jian Wushuang's body, which then turned into a majestic golden divine power ocean, and frantically swept in all directions from Jian Wushuang. In the blink of an eye, the golden ocean of divine power covered a vast area of heaven and earth, and immediately formed a huge golden prison out of thin air after the golden divine power ocean was formed. The golden prison covered most of the void above 7 Absolute City, along with the powerful 7 Absolute Palace experts. The coverage was to the extent that many other 7 Absolute Palace experts and Divine Sword official army soldiers were also enveloped within it. Chapter 2689. Battling the 7 Absolute Palace Master. The 5,000-foot-high golden god Shadow appeared once again behind Jian Wushuang and looked down upon all things in heaven and earth, intimidating them. Jian Wushuang was like an emperor in the golden prison. Buzz. Powerful domain oppression was acting on those 7 Absolute Palace experts. The experts could feel that their strength was limited to a certain extent. What's this? A prison? And one with domain powers? The domain is so powerful. The 7 Absolute Palace experts frowned as all of them could feel the golden prison's sturdy and solid strength around them. They were all trapped within the prison. Divine Sword Official Army kill. Jian Wushuang pointed toward the 7 Absolute Palace experts in front of him and commanded. Murderous intent instantly rose in those 50 Divine Sword Official Army soldiers. Long Shan roared and said, "Everybody! Alliance Master has spent such a high price and time to create us the Divine Sword Official Army, and today is our first battle. Let's show the Alliance Master our combat powers. Listen to my orders. People, go in groups of 5 and kill." The attack command resounded. The cold killing intent diffused as the 50 Divine Sword Official Army soldiers immediately went into groups of 5, and off they went charging at the mini 7 Absolute Palace experts. Shocking shouts of killing echoed in the void which shook heaven and earth. Kill! The mini 7 Absolute Palace experts also immediately came forth to greet the attack, and both sides were in a heated battle. The war had broken out. Suhan! The 7 Absolute Palace Masters' cold eyes stared hard and hostilely at Jian Wushuang, as an endless evil aura permeated the area. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly at him, before soon made his move. Jian Wushuang appeared in front of the 7 Absolute Palace Master in a jiffy, as though he teleported, before coldly thrusting the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. The gloomy 7 Absolute Palace Master had a purple spear in his hand. Although Sword Alliance Master Su Han is only a high-level Heaven Ultimate God, he was capable of killing the former Purple Beast Alliance Master, and should not be underestimated or taken lightly. A majestic divine power surged as the 7 Absolute Palace Master had fully displayed his own strength. The purple spear in his hand made a sharp forward stab, producing endless power of destruction. The power of destruction formed a huge vortex of destruction in the void, like a wild beast opening its big wide mouth fiercely at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, who was supported by the sword intent from his long sword that carried the powers of 2 space-time blades, wanted to strangle and break everything in front of him. The two instantly collided. Bang! A low sound like 2 heavy objects collided was heard as 2 shots of terrifying powers exploded before colliding head-on in the void. At the same time as the powers' collision, Jian Wushuang's perfect sword world of 100,000 miles hit the principal world displayed by the 7 Absolute Palace Master, and caused the principal world to be oppressed and almost disintegrated in just a brief moment. How is his sword world so strong? 7 Absolute Palace Master was astonished. His principal world was completely crushed as he was affected by a great shock, instantly weakening his overall strength. He was perplexed because he had learned the Destruction Law, which had one of the strongest offensive powers among the laws. His spear technique was also extremely good, not to mention that his own divine power was even more tyrannical. Even if he was under the double oppression of Jian Wushuang's sword world and golden prison domain, he was certain it would not affect his offensive powers. However, he ended up recalling himself with a slight advantage after colliding against Jian Wushuang's sword world. Rumbling. The divine power spread in heaven and earth as both of them finally pulled apart, with Jian Wushuang sent staggering back a short distance. Indeed, anyone who learns the Destruction Law has fierce offensive powers. Jian Wushuang was admiring the power of the Destruction Law. Soon after, Jian Wushuang stood firm and raised his hand. Buzz! 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 9 infernal crimson divine swords appeared in front of him. Each of those 9 infernal crimson divine swords was filled with transmigration strength. Jian Wushuang thought it was a hassle to use the 9 infernal crimson divine swords individually for attacking, so he had fused all 9 into one. Transmigration sword formation's first formation, Heaven's Edge. Boom! A huge black divine sword burst out from the reincarnation passage like a huge awl as it pierced through the void and shot toward the 7 Absolute Palace Master. The transmigration sword formation, although it was only the first formation, it was performed in its best possible condition. Jian Wushuang had spent more than 40 years in his journey from northern Darkstar territory on his transmigration law perception, which had already reached the first stage's extreme. In addition, his divine power was also comparable to a peak Heaven Ultimate God at that instance. The black divine sword had shocking power when its full potential was being displayed. The 7 Absolute Palace Master's pupils shrank sharply when he saw the black divine sword coming through the void. He immediately sent the spear in his hand out. Clang! The sound of metallic objects collided could be heard as the 7 Absolute Palace Master retreated a few steps back. The black sword was also shaken off its route, but had only skewed slightly before returning to its original position and continued to shoot forward. This sword formation is so powerful. The 7 Absolute Palace Master tightened his grip around his spear before greeting the sword formation attack. The black divine sword attacked again and again, but 7 Absolute Palace Master was able to parry it off. However, the 7 Absolute Palace Master was a little gloomy after the repeated attack. I have fought again and again with this sword formation that even my divine body has been affected. My divine body will sustain further damage if this carries on. But this Su Han is only remotely controlling the sword formation to attack me with his action, merely consuming some of his divine power. I'll suffer if this continues. I can't go on like this. Let's just use that trump card. The 7 Absolute Palace Master's eyes were cold as a gush of divine power surged from within him. Buzz! A weird figure that condensed from destruction law appeared in the void out of thin air. It was a destructive clone formed by the 7 Absolute Palace Master, based on his own comprehension of the destruction law, that could only last for a brief moment. The destruction clone stood in the black divine sword's path. The 7 Absolute Palace Master rushed toward Jian Wuxia. On his way, a monstrous destructive force had begun to condense in his spear. Destructive Dragon Lord Spear. Boom. The spear that carried endless destructive power exploded all of a sudden. Chapter 2690, Enchanted Boom. 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 3 continuous violent bombings reverberated in the void as 3 dragons howling could be heard accompanying the bombing. The 7 Absolute Palace Master had only made one movement, but 3 sword shadows could be seen appearing. Those 3 sword shadows directly turned into 3 destruction dragons and roared ferociously as they attacked. The destruction power those 3 dragons showed had caused even Jian Wuxuang's facial expression to change. However,
Wuxia
he was
waved his sword
terrified
without
when he discovered
hesitation,
his speed was much
unleashing
slower
his
than his
divine
opponent
power
who was
and
waving
his
the
maximum
sword.
capacity
His
of
speed
two
was too
space-time
slow,
blades,
and his speed
Boom.
difference with the
A
sword
loud
attack
bang.
was too far
The
apart.
strong killing power
He could not
directly
block it in
killed
time.
two destruction
In the
dragons,
end,
while the
swoosh,
remaining one was
as their
unaffected,
figures met,
and directly
the
knocked into
heartbreakingly beautiful
Wuxuang's
sword light
divine body.
had already swooshed
Jian
through his
Wuxuang
body,
was sent flying
although
outward
the seven
until
absolute
he
palace
knocked onto the
master
golden
was
prison's
also
edge
wearing heavenly
and
treasure
landed on
level
its
defensive
wall.
armor.
Have I done it?
It was not
The
an
seven
extremely
absolute
strong
palace
one,
master
and was
stared at
unable
Jian
to save his
Wuxuang
life.
with a slight
Cracks
satisfaction
had
in his
appeared on the
eyes.
armor.
He
As
could
the
feel
sword
that his
light
attack
had
had directly
directly landed
landed
on
on
Jian
Jian
into
Wuxuang's
two
body.
from the middle.
This attack was extremely powerful,
master's
and
eyes
also
turned
his
lifeless,
strongest,
as he failed
a
to
true
hold
peak
on to
heaven
his
ultimate
life.
god would
Jian
have been
Wuxuang
badly
stood
wounded
by the
after
void
suffering
next to
such
the
an
seven
impact
absolute
head-on
palace
under
master,
normal
as he
circumstances.
looked down upon his
Those
body.
with slightly
I've
weaker
been
physical
understanding
protection
the laws and
abilities
studying my
might
sword
even be
principle
destroyed by that
intensively.
attack. During the
As for
40-year
Suhan,
journey,
claimed
from the
Jian
northern
Wuxuang
Dark
had
Star
already
territory
broken loose
to
from
the
the
Golden
Danyang
Prison's
continent.
wall.
I've been
and
trying to
reappeared
innovate
in
new
front of the
techniques,
seven absolute
and because I
palace
have the
master.
transmigration
You're really
sword
a
formation
peak
for
heaven ultimate god
transmigration
with
law.
some real powers.
I have paused on
Jian Wuxuang
transmigration
glanced
sword
at the
techniques
seven absolute
and
palace
focused
master
all my
with a
energy on
devilish
creating
smile on his
space-time
face.
sword techniques.
You aren't hurt?
After
Nothing
40
happened
years,
to you.
I
The
finally
palace
created
master
the
looked at
space-time
Jian
sword
Wuxuang
technique's seventh
and was
form.
horrified.
Enchanted.
He had no idea
This
that
form
only
is
a
much
handful could
stronger than
manage
the
to
other
hurt
6
Jian
forms of
Wuxuang
my
with even
space-time
fewer
sword
capable of
technique
killing him.
that I've previously
Jian
created,
Wuxuang was a
mumbled
perfect
Jian
chaotic
Wuxuang.
creature.
The
He
seventh
would be
form,
able to recover
enchanted
in an instant no matter
everybody
how
to long
badly
for
he
the
was
enchantment,
injured, as long as
that
he had
form was
sufficient
something he
divine
created
power.
out of his peak
For example,
understanding of
the
space-time
previous
law,
attack had
a
really
form
wounded
that was
him,
sufficient to
but he
cause
had
a
recovered
huge
in an
effect on
instant with his
space-time.
combat
That was
power
the
still
reason
at
this
his peak
form
level.
acted so
That
quickly
attack
when he
just
used
now
it.
should be your
It was
strongest
so
attack.
fast that even though
Jian
seven
Wuxuang
absolute
stared at the
palace
master
with
to
a smile on
respond.
his face.
He was unable
You've
to
shown
block
your
it,
strongest
and was
attack,
directly
and it's my
killed.
turn now.
It would have been
His
easy
aura
to
had
kill the
started to
seven
grow
absolute
horrifyingly
palace
as
master
Jian
I really
Wuxuang
wanted.
spoke.
Jian
The seven-star
Wuxuang's
secret
smiled.
technique had been
In truth,
activated.
if he used
His
many
realm
methods,
had directly risen
other
from
matters
peak Earth
aside,
ultimate god,
just the
to
finger
primary
pointing
level
heavenly
heaven
technique
ultimate god
had allowed him
following
to
the
easily
vast
sweep
star powers
99%
activation of the peak
his
heaven
divine
ultimate
power then
gods.
expanded from
Jian
high-level
Wuxuang
heaven
was not
ultimate
willing
god
to use it again
to peak heaven
as
ultimate
the finger
god
pointing
under
heavenly
the disguise
technique
of the black
was
stone.
too overbearing
His
and
true strength had
nature-defying.
skyrocketed
A
in an
technique
instant.
he would instead
He
treat
then slowly
as one
rose
of his
his head
last
and
resort
glanced at the
techniques.
seven absolute
He could not
palace master
repeatedly
with a
use
weird
that
smile
last
on his
resort
face.
technique in front of the
Swoosh.
crowds.
Jian
Or
Wuxuang
it
made
would
a
no
move.
longer be his
He
last
appeared
trump
in front
card,
of the seven
just like one
absolute
of his
palace
most
master,
powerful last
as though he had
resorts,
teleported.
stately painting.
He then made a
He would
wave
not
with his
easily
blood
use
mountain
it unless
sword.
necessary.
This wave was
No
poignant
matter
and
what,
heartbreakingly
the seven
beautiful.
absolute palace
It also
master
carried
was
a hint
already
of
dead.
confusion
In the
which
voids
made
around
people
them,
intoxicated.
the seven
Many
absolute palace
experts in the
experts
surrounding
who were
void
fighting
were
with the divine sword
involuntarily
army
attracted by this
naturally
sword
saw
light.
that scene.
When that
The
attack was
palace
carried
master
out
is dead
and could not
I am
control
possible.
themselves from being
If the palace
intoxicated by
master
it
is
once
dead, then
attracted.
aren't we?
It felt as
The
though they were
experts from
drunk
the seven
after having
absolute
several
palace
drinks.
were horrified and
Although it was
frightened.
a slightly uncomfortable feeling,
It
in
was
contrast
enjoyable.
to that,
A hint
the
of
divine sword
confusion
army
also
had risen
flashed
morale.
through seven absolute palace
their palace
master's
master
eyes
has been killed
and
by
brought
us.
him to the brink
Kill
of
all of them.
intoxication. However, he still maintained a sense of understanding towards himself, as he tried his best to swing the spear in his hand and block that heartbreakingly intoxicating sword attack. He tried his best to block the attack, Chapter 2691. As easy as breaking a dead branch off a tree, the Divine Sword Army consisted of 50 Heaven Ultimate Gods, with each being the cream of the crop among Heaven Ultimate Gods. They were an army fighting against the 7 Absolute Palace experts in teams of 5, in an absolute advantage with the battle situation, could be said to be leaning to one side. The 7 Absolute Palace experts had lost their backbone, and their will to fight following the 7 Absolute Palace Masters' death, which immediately caused the situation to lean towards one side. Their failure was imminent, and became as easy as breaking dry branches off a tree. The 7 Absolute Palace experts had completely lost their capabilities in resisting, and could only be slaughtered by the Divine Sword Army. Whoever surrenders can avoid death, and those who continue to resist will be killed without any hesitation. Jian Wushuang's cold voice could be heard reverberating in the entire Golden Prison. The 7 Absolute Palace experts were extremely happy when they heard his voice. A huge number of the experts gave up resisting and directly surrendered in front of Jian Wushuang in the next moment. Most of the experts would choose to surrender without hesitation if their lives were at stake. However, there were still a small number of stubborn experts who were naturally slaughtered by the Divine Sword Army. The Divine Sword Army moved swiftly as the 7 Absolute Palace experts, apart from those who surrendered, were killed. In this battle, Jian Wushuang had seen the Divine Sword Army's combat prowess. The combat prowess unleashed by a team of 5 under the magic formation's support was astonishing. Putting the divine power depletion aside, the fact that the attack damage they received was shared among those 5 people had caused none of the Divine Sword Army's members to fall in the battle despite many 7 Absolute Palace experts having died. This is indeed a legion. Jian Wushuang secretly gasped in admiration. The combat strength between an expert legion set up with money and a team formed with the union of normal cultivators were different. The 50-men Divine Sword Army alone was just a preliminary formation, and many things were imperfect. The magic formation they used was slightly normal, but their combat power was still extremely strong. This caused Jian Wushuang to uncontrollably think about the first-ranked legion on the Danyang continent, the Crimson Stone Official Army. The Crimson Stone Official Army had a total of 1,000 Heaven Ultimate Gods, during its peak with each of those Heaven Ultimate Gods being elites. They had a great many brave warriors, while their military and magic formations are perfect. This was an extremely invincible legion, under the personal leadership of the Crimson Stone Saint, and his many other Heaven Ultimate Gods. The Divine Sword Army was still very much weaker, when compared to a legion of that level. Immediately send a message to inform Dong Shui that the 7 Absolute Temple has been conquered by us. Ask her to come over with some people to take over the 7 Absolute City, and arrange a place for the 7 Absolute Palace experts to settle down. Make sure to use those who are useful, ordered Jian Wushuang. Yes, Longshan nodded, and immediately sent a message to Dong Shui. After that, Jian Wushuang and the Divine Sword Army only waited a day in the 7 Absolute City before Dong Shui rushed over with many Sword Alliance experts. The Sword Alliance was originally the integration of 2 third-rated forces. However, there were many experts in the Sword Alliance at that moment, due to the many resources which Jian Wushuang provided within that year on top of the fact they recruited many others. The Divine Sword Army alone had 50 Heaven Ultimate Gods, with another 50 Heaven Ultimate Gods in the Alliance. At this moment, Dong Shui had brought a group of the Heaven Ultimate Gods to meet up with Jian Wushuang. Alliance Master, this place is... Dong Shui looked at the surroundings in surprise. She had already guessed what happened here, but she was still extremely surprised by it. Jian Wushuang had hurried over with the Divine Sword Army and wiped out the 7 Absolute Palace without any preparations or discussions beforehand. I'll leave the remaining steps for you to resolve as I have other matters needing my attention, ordered Jian Wushuang before glancing over at Longshan. Longshan gathered the Divine Sword Army. We're leaving now. We're leaving now. Longshan was caught by surprise. Alliance Master, where are we going this time? Bloodwater City, said Jian Wushuang. The Bloodwater Gang's turf, Bloodwater City? Alliance Master, do you plan to continue by making a move toward the Bloodwater Gang? Long Shan and Dong Shui widened their eyes. Was his appetite not too huge for immediately making a move towards the Bloodwater Gang after winning over the 7 Absolute Temple? I'm personally leading the Divine Sword Army this time. It's also the Divine Sword Army's first battle. How can we only take down one force, the 7 Absolute Temple? The Bloodwater City isn't too far from the 7 Absolute City. We can arrive there in half a day with our speed, and the Bloodwater Gang won't be able to react under such circumstances. Follow me, Jian Wushuang ordered without further explanation. Many of the soldiers in the Divine Sword Army saw with their own eyes Jian Wushuang swiftly killing the 7 Absolute Temple Master. His strength naturally increased their obedience toward him, and there were no hesitations when they heard Jian Wushuang's orders. The Divine Sword Army immediately took action and headed for the Bloodwater City. The Bloodwater Gang located in the Bloodwater City was also one of the third-rated forces near the Sword Alliance. However, it was much weaker compared to the 7 Absolute Temple. Although the Divine Sword Army had just experienced an intense battle against the 7 Absolute Temple, it did not suffer any huge losses and still contained its high combat prowess. There was no need to mention Jian Wushuang, who was definitely in good shape. The same situation soon happened. The place was also forcefully wiped out and fell apart like broken twigs, just like the 7 Absolute Temple. A normal third-rated force with only a single peak heaven ultimate god was unable to stop Jian Wushuang and his Divine Sword Army. The Bloodwater Gang master was killed by Jian Wushuang, whilst his direct followers also died in the Divine Sword Army's hands within 15 minutes. The remaining Bloodwater Gang experts thereafter surrendered. As a result, Jian Wushuang had also obtained the Bloodwater Gang. Dong Shui thought she was dreaming when she rushed to the Bloodwater Gang with her subordinates and saw the situation there. It had to be known that the previous Dragon Divine Gang had constantly suffered from conflicts against the other third-rated forces near them. However, those few forces were too close with each other, such that it was difficult to create a huge crisis for the other parties. The reason Dragon Divine Gang got into their previous situation was because of the Dragon Divine Gang Master's carelessness. He ended up being killed by the Purple Beast Alliance Master, who found the opportunity to do so. However, their new Alliance Master had swiftly taken down 2 third-rated forces within a mere 2 days. Less than a year after the Sword Alliance was formed with means beyond what others could do. Alliance Master, shall we continue to the next force? Long Shan asked as he stood beside Jian Wushuang. He had previously felt that Jian Wushuang was slightly crazy, but those continuous battles had given him huge confidence. He was looking forward to Jian Wushuang leading the Divine Sword Army and attacking the remaining third-rated forces. He was not the only one, as most of the Divine Sword Army's soldiers felt the same. Jian Wushuang had earlier announced that they could take over their dead enemies' interspatial rings in such battles. Hence it was natural for them wanting to continue conquering others. One of the reasons being they were enjoying the killing spree, while the other was that all of them had somewhat benefited after experiencing both battles, with some gaining huge amounts of spoils. Chapter 2692. Support of a powerful clan. Continue to the next force? Jian Wushuang slowly shook his head. This will be the end of this trip. Our Sword Alliance has huge gains as we've gained control of the lands that originally belonged to the 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang, after continuously wiping them out. If we continue our path, brothers of the Divine Sword Army might be able to take it, but the remaining third-rated forces aren't dumb. I'm sure they have already gotten news about what our Sword Alliance is doing, and will be prepared. There's a possibility that the remaining 3 forces have already gathered together. We might not be able to gain an upper hand if we continue our journey of conquering others. Let's focus on integrating the lands we've just gained and talk about this later. Alright. Longshan nodded. The Divine Sword Army soldiers were slightly disappointed when they knew the journey of conquering others was not continuing, but they quickly settled down. They knew that they were the Sword Alliance's sharpest sword, and they were not in a hurry, as there would surely be a lot more conquering battles, like what they had experienced that day. As the Sword Alliance was busy integrating the territories that once belonged to the 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang, the rulers of the remaining 3 third-rated forces had already gathered together, just as Jian Wushuang expected. They were in a huge mansion where the corpse palace was located. In the huge hall, a bald man who was like a bag of bones was sitting on the throne. There was a wine glass on the table in front of him that was filled with crimson-colored blood. It was the blood of a virgin. The bald old man's face was filled with anticipation and desire as he looked at the virgin's blood in the glass. He picked up the glass and slightly wet the corner of his lips before gulping everything down. He had a prolonged, intoxicated and content expression on his face after drinking the blood. Palace Master Guemo is still extremely laid back when we're already in an imminent crisis. A slightly unfriendly voice could be heard. The person speaking was a middle-aged man in long robes, seated in front of a table at the end of the hall. The middle-aged man in long robes was emitting a powerful peak heaven ultimate god aura. There was a lady in green clothing sitting opposite of him, who had her eyes closed, but a serious expression on her face nonetheless. The bald old man had finally put down the wine glass in his hands and glanced over at the duo sitting underneath before smiling and asked, "An imminent crisis? Everything is going well, so where is this imminent crisis coming from?" Palace Master Guemo, do you really not know, or are you faking it? The Sword Alliance has already taken action. They managed to conquer both the 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang in less than 2 days. At this rate, the next force the Sword Alliance will be aiming for could be my Divine Dragon Pavilion, or the Purple Dress House. They might even directly take action towards your corpse palace. The Sword Alliance is coming at such a menacing rate. We might follow in the footsteps of 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang if we don't prepare ourselves, shouted the middle-aged man in long robes who was also the Divine Dragon Pavilion Master in a deep voice. Brother Xinglong, aren't you worrying unnecessarily? Putting the fact that the Sword Alliance might not even take action against both of you. Even if they really take action against you, you shouldn't be afraid either, as all of us are third-rated forces after all, said the bald old man slowly, who was also one of the Corpse Palace Masters, Palace Master Guemo. The Corpse Palace had 2 Palace Masters, Guemo and Shuremo. Both of them were peak heaven ultimate gods. Between the 2 of them, Shuremo was much stronger but seldom involved himself in mundane affairs. Guemo was the one taking care of the Corpse Palace's daily affairs. Palace Master Guemo, I'm not in the mood for jokes at such important times, said the long-robed middle-aged man coldly. He clearly understood the strength of his Divine Dragon Pavilion. As a third-rated force, the Divine Dragon Pavilion's strength was similar to the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang. If the Sword Alliance was able to wipe out both forces so easily, they could easily wipe out the Divine Dragon Pavilion and Purple Dress House too. It looks like Brother Xinglong is really nervous this time. Guemo smiled, but the expression on his face gradually changed to a serious one. No matter what, the Sword Alliance has gone overboard this time, and has already become a serious threat to us. Everybody will feel insecure if this continues. Hence, why don't we make an appointment with the Sword Alliance Master, and have a good discussion with him to resolve this matter? Make an appointment with him to have a discussion? The long-robed middle-aged man was extremely angry. Guemo, what are you thinking? The Sword Alliance has already openly taken action, and we only plan to make an appointment with the Alliance Master to discuss ways to resolve this matter? What a joke! Is this a joke to you? What great ideas do you have then, Brother Shenglong? Guemo asked. Simple. The Sword Alliance is a great threat, and its ambitions are clear to all of us. We cannot be sitting ducks, and need to grab this chance before the Sword Alliance has full control over the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang's territory. The 3 of us should join hands and wipe out this Sword Alliance before they grow too strong, said the long-robed middle-aged man seriously. I agree. The green-clothed lady who had been quiet while sitting there in an upright manner also slightly nodded. Both of them had a prior discussion between themselves before coming over to the corpse palace together. Guemo smiled indifferently. The both of you agreed to directly take action and wipe out the Sword Alliance. However, have you thought about the fact that it isn't so easy to wipe out the Sword Alliance? If I'm right, the Sword Alliance has a strong power secretly supporting them. What? The expressions on both the long-robed middle-aged man and green-clothed lady changed, as they immediately turned their heads to look at Guemo. Guemo continued. I'm just making assumptions, but there's a huge possibility it's true. The Sword Alliance originated from the merger of Dragon Divine Gang and Purple Beast Alliance. Both forces were third-rated forces without many resources. However, the Sword Alliance has been wantonly raising a large army after Suhan appeared and integrated both forces to form the Sword Alliance. They even offered very attractive terms. Third-rated forces like us offer 1 million primordial stones as payment to a primary-level Heaven Ultimate God for 100 years of service. On the other hand, the Sword Alliance is so rich that they offer 3 million primordial stones to any primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods who joins and obeys them for 100 years. Their offer is 3 times that of ours. They attracted many experts to join them because they had such attractive terms. This is why the Sword Alliance's strength increased by so much within 1 year, till the point that they could wipe out the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang. The Sword Alliance can afford such high payments because they owned a huge amount of resources and had substantial financial support. However, where did these resources and financial support come from? Only relying on high-level Heaven Ultimate God Suhan is not enough. That's why I'm certain that the Sword Alliance has a huge powerful clan supporting them from behind the scenes. This powerful clan might be an extremely strong second-rated force on the Danyang continent. However, it might also be a really powerful first-rated force. Chapter 2693. A Treacherous Dinner. It doesn't matter if the Sword Alliance has a strong second-rated or first-rated clan supporting them. We cannot easily offend them, said Guemo. The long-robed middle-aged man and the lady from the purple dress house looked sheepishly at each other as they heard this, before nodding to themselves. It was true that the Sword Alliance had lots of resources, and it looked like there was a powerful clan secretly supporting them. If a clan secretly supported them, the Sword Alliance was not what several small third-rated clans could offend. That is why we cannot make any rash moves. Let's invite the Sword Alliance Master over and have a discussion with him. We need to understand if any powerful clans support the Sword Alliance and inquire about his true purpose. We shall act based on the situation later on, said Guemo. Act based on the situation. The long-robed middle-aged man and the green-clothed lady dress looked at each other. Both of them naturally understood the meaning behind Gumo's words. Both of us will make our move first if that's the case. Palace Master Guemo, please send a message to the Sword Alliance as soon as possible, said the long-robed middle-aged man. Don't worry, Brother Shenglong will immediately send the message to Sword Alliance, but I have no idea if the Sword Alliance Master will attend the dinner or not, said Guemo. The long-robed middle-aged man and the green-clothed lady did not stay any longer. They soon turned and left. However, Gumo's eyes turned cold after they left, and even had a weird smile on his face. Big brother, have you heard everything? Guemo started mumbling to himself. However, an old man who looked cold and did not have any breath of life in him slowly appeared as he finished speaking. This old man was the other Corpse Palace master, Shurimo. The Divine Dragon Pavilion, and the Purple Dress House, came to our Corpse Palace proactively, after the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang were continuously wiped out by the Sword Alliance. Haha, even the gods are helping me. Guemo laughed arbitrarily. Shurimo coldly said, our Corpse Palace was originally worried about not having a way to centralize the leaders of these forces. However, the Sword Alliance has helped us in a big way. We've waited for so long to finally get this chance. Star Fort has been prepared since long ago, and I only need to send a message to get them here. As for the Sword Alliance, I'm leaving it to you to send the message. Make sure the Alliance Master comes over no matter what. Don't worry, big brother. Our Corpse Palace has never had any conflict with the Sword Alliance, and I even sent an expensive gift when the Sword Alliance was first founded. I did that to make the Alliance Master have a good impression on me. Now that I'm lowering my attitude to personally invite him, I don't think the Alliance Master will refuse me, said Guemo with a smile. That's good. Shurimo slightly nodded. The people of the Corpse Palace soon sent a token to the Sword Alliance, which was placed in front of Jian Wushuang at that moment. Jian Wushuang looked at the message on the token as he sat on the throne. His facial expressions changed. Both Corpse Palace masters personally invited me to attend a dinner at the Corpse Palace. They're lowering their positions by so much? Dinner? What does the Corpse Palace plan to do? Xiao Tiexin, Dong Shui, Long Shan, and several others stood in front of Jian Wushuang with weird expressions on their faces. Our Sword Alliance has just wiped out the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang. I'm sure the Corpse Palace has something else in mind when they invite you to the dinner at this moment, said Xiao Tiexin. If I assumed correctly, people from Divine Dragon Pavilion and Purple Dress House will be attending that dinner too, said Dong Shui. Perhaps, Jian Wushuang nodded. He could also notice that this dinner might be one with planned treachery hidden behind that was aimed at him. Alliance Master, it matters not if you don't attend the dinner since it's so dangerous, said He Yan. That's right. We don't need to be afraid of the Corpse Palace, based on our Sword Alliance's strength right now. We can ignore this dinner. Zishan also agreed. With that said, I don't plan to completely turn against the Corpse Palace now. The Corpse Palace previously gave me an expensive gift, and are even lowering their stance right now. It's hard to explain my absence when they've honored me to this extent. Apart from that, I keep having the feeling that this dinner is not going to be so simple, said Jian Wushuang. It's not that simple? Xiao Tiexin and the others wondered. The Corpse Palace acts so weirdly. The Corpse Palace is the strongest among the third-rated forces surrounding us, and even has the support of the Star Fort behind them. Why didn't the Corpse Palace contend for hegemony when they have such a huge advantage? They even treat the remaining third-rated forces around them politely and humbly. It's really abnormal. The Corpse Palace even sent gifts to express good intentions when our Sword Alliance was first founded. As the saying goes, one who's unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. I have this constant feeling that the Corpse Palace is planning something. We should be able to see Corpse Palace's true intentions in this dinner, mumbled Jian Wushuang, who was deep in his thoughts as he tapped his fingers on the armchair. He finally made up his mind after some time. I'm going to this dinner. Alliance Master. Xiao Tiexin and the others were surprised. Jian Wushuang waved his hand as he smiled. Don't worry. Although the dinner might be dangerous, it's impossible to make me stay with only the Corpse Palace's strength. Not only the Corpse Palace, but even the Star Fort behind them also aren't capable of doing it. He was confident about his strength and means. Although there were people in this ancient god domain who could kill him, they did not exist in this Danyang continent, let alone just a third-rated force in the Danyang continent. Xiao Tiexin and the others glanced at each other, but stopped persuading him when they heard that. However, Long Shan still said, Alliance Master, why don't I lead the Divine Sword Army and wait outside the Corpse Palace for safety precautions? If anything happens during the dinner, you only need to send a message, and the Divine Sword Army can attack them. That sounds great. Jian Wushuang nodded. Long Shan immediately commanded the Divine Sword Army to make preparations after a decision was made. 3 days later, Jian Wushuang left for the Corpse Palace. The Corpse Palace was extremely strong among the third-rated forces and had control over a large territory, 3 townships. Corpse City was where the old den of the Corpse Palace was located at. The Divine Sword Army was left outside of the Corpse City as Jian Wushuang entered the city alone. Guemo, who had been waiting there for him, immediately walked forward to welcome Jian Wushuang once he entered the city. Haha, I've long heard about Alliance Master Su Han's reputation, but we were never fated to meet previously. Finally, I've gotten to meet you in person today. Guemo looked extremely welcoming. I've also admired Palace Master Gu Mo's since a long time ago. It's a pleasure to meet you today. I wonder if Palace Master Shurimo is also here? Jian Wushuang politely asked. Big Brother is also here, but he's in retreat all year long and will not be able to welcome you. I hope Alliance Master Su Han won't be unhappy because of that, said Guemo with a smile. Chapter 2694. Alliance Jian Wushuang and Guemo had hidden agendas of their own. However, they had not truly fallen out, so they greeted each other during their first meeting. Alliance Master Su Han, please come in. Guemo led Jian Wushuang walking towards the insides of the Corpse Palace, and soon arrived in a big hall. This was a glorious and splendor hall with tables placed on both sides, and almost 100 moving beauties dancing in the middle of the hall. The dancing beauties did not stop after Jian Wushuang and Guemo entered the hall. However, a long-robed middle-aged man and a green-clothed lady stood up from behind the tables on both sides. "Alliance Master Su Han," said the long-robed middle-aged man. "Greetings to you, Alliance Master Su Han." The green-clothed lady looked rather humble. "Oh, both Master Sheng Long and Purple Dress House Master are also here?" Jian Wushuang glanced at the both of them without any signs of surprise. He knew this would be an extraordinary dinner. Apart from the Corpse Palace, Divine Dragon Gang, and the Purple Dress House would come forward. "The two of us will not turn down a personal invitation from Palace Master Guemo," said the green-clothed lady, Purple Dress House Master. "Haha, everybody take your seats." Guemo also sat down in front of the table at the highest point, as he waved his hand and smiled loudly. Jian Wushuang and two others quickly found their respective places and sat down. "It's been such an honor that all three of you can gather at my Corpse Palace today. Come, let me call out a toast in your honor," said Guemo with a smile as he raised the glass in his hand. Jian Wushuang, Sheng Long, and the Purple Dress House Master also raised their glasses to drink together. Guemo wiped the edge of his mouth after finishing his glass of wine and started to speak seriously. "Honorable guests, I've invited the three of you to this dinner tonight for one reason only." Jian Wushuang, Sheng Long, and the Purple Dress House Master immediately turned to look at Guemo. "I really want to see what this Guemo wants to do." Jian Wushuang smiled coldly in secret. "Honorable guests, all of you know that the Danyang continent is huge with many forces, powerful organizations, and clans on this piece of land. If we put aside the top 5 peak organizations, there are already many first and second-rated forces on the Danyang continent. As for third-rated forces like ours, there are as many as the stars in the sky," said Guemo loudly. Jian Wushuang's facial expression did not change. However, Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master frowned. They previously went looking for Guemo, so that Guemo would hold that dinner in hopes of resolving issues with the Sword Alliance. They wanted to investigate if there was really a powerful clan supporting the Sword Alliance and the Alliance Master's intentions. However, Guemo mentioned the situation in the Danyang continent as soon as he opened his mouth. That caused Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master to feel slightly odd. On the other hand, Guemo continued, "The situation of the Danyang continent is too complex with extremely crazed fights between the forces. Third-rated forces like Corpse Palace, Sword Alliance, Divine Dragon Gang, and Purple Dress House are like lonely kayaks when caught in such crazy fights. We're so vulnerable that we'll be wiped out and taken over by others at any minute. I believe all of you have the same thoughts as I have." Guemo looked over at the trio sitting beneath him with a smile on his face. Jian Wushuang only gave an indifferent smile as a response. However, the facial expression of Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master had completely changed. They could recognize there was some hidden meaning in Gumo's words, and matters were not going as per what they initially agreed. "Palace Master Guemo, what are you trying to say?" Sheng Long asked in his deep voice. "Haha, what I want to say is very simple. All 4 third-rated forces, Corpse Palace, Sword Alliance, Divine Dragon Gang and Purple Dress House, are located in the same area. We are pitifully weak if we remain alone, as none of us will be able to fight if we meet any second-rated forces, or a really powerful expert. However, if all 4 of us unite like strings twisted into a piece of rope, even the strongest second-rated force could not easily take action against us. Won't that be nice, as our opportunity of surviving in this Danyang continent would increase?" Guemo said with a smile. "Strings twisted into a piece of rope? I wonder how Palace Master Guemo plans to do this?" Sheng Liang asked. "An alliance. The 4 of us should unite and form a new alliance," replied Guemo. "Alliance? What you mean to say is a merger, right?" Sheng Long's eyes grew cold. "You can say that too." Guemo nodded gleefully. The faces of Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master completely darkened after hearing that. They had finally understood that the real purpose of Gumo's dinner was not to take action towards the Sword Alliance. Uniting them was just an excuse, as Gumo's true aim was to take over these three forces. Focusing their aim at the Sword Alliance and investigating the origins of the Sword Alliance was just an excuse to gather them in the Corpse Palace. After all, Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master would not join any of Gumo's dinner at the Corpse Palace under normal circumstances. However, Sheng Long and Purple Dress House Master were the ones that proactively sought the Corpse Palace out this time. Palace Master Guemo were invited here to resolve the matter, where the Sword Alliance recently destroyed both the Seven Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang. My Purple Dress House is not interested in the alliance that you mentioned, said the Purple Dress House Master directly. Sheng Long also seriously said, the same applies to my Divine Dragon Pavilion. There's no need to continue if Palace Master Guemo held this dinner intending to form an alliance. I'll make my move first. Sheng Long stood up and walked towards the exit after he spoke. The Purple Dress House Master also stood up to leave, while Jian Wushuang was the only one left sitting there. Guemo looked on with a smile without any intention of stopping them as the two of them left. A figure suddenly appeared in front of Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master when they just arrived at the entrance of the hall. My guests, the dinner has just begun. Why are you in a hurry to leave? A cold voice could be heard coming from that person's mouth. It was an elder with a cold and lifeless figure, whose voice also sounded as though there was no life in it. Shuremo. The faces of Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master darkened. Shuremo, Gumo's elder brother, was an extremely strong peak-level Heaven Ultimate God. At the very least, he was much stronger than both Guemo and Sheng Long. However, Shuremo was not the only one who appeared at that moment. Two other figures were standing behind him. They were a man and woman whose aura had also reached the peak Heaven Ultimate God realm. Chapter 2695. True Intentions Unveiled. The two of them are experts from Starfort. The faces of Sheng Long and the purple dress house master darkened when they saw the peak heaven ultimate gods behind Mo. They had heard Corpse Palace had a certain relationship with Starfort. It could even be said that Starfort was secretly supporting the Corpse Palace. However, those were only rumors with nothing concrete. However, the doubt regarding Corpse Palace and Starfort's relationship had been cleared the moment those two peak heaven ultimate gods appeared before them. Palace Master Mo. What's the meaning of this? The Purple House Master stared at Mo in front of her. Haha. Our Corpse Palace sincerely invites both of you to attend this meeting. However, you want to leave when the dinner has just started. Won't that mean you're not giving the Corpse Palace any face? Therefore, I feel it'll be best for the two of you to return to your seats, said Mo coldly. Both Sheng Long and the Purple House Master were secretly anxious. However, the two of them suppressed their anger at the bottom of their hearts and returned to their seats upon seeing the two experts from Starfort standing behind Mo. At that moment, all of them realized what the Corpse Palace had been planning from the beginning. Based on the situation before them, they could see it was not a day or two since the Corpse Palace had made such plans. Even though the Corpse Palace did not previously show much arrogance and had never proactively attacked the third-rated forces around them, it was because those third-rated forces were too large such that once the Corpse Palace wiped even one of them out, the remaining third-rated forces would immediately unite and deal with the Corpse Palace, which they would then be out of solutions. Therefore, the Corpse Palace could only wait for a chance to gather all the forces' leaders and capture all of them in one move. The Corpse Palace finally managed to invite the various forces' leaders due to the incident with the Sword Alliance. At that moment, leaders of all three forces, the Sword Alliance, Divine Dragon Pavilion and Purple Dress House, had gathered in the Corpse Palace, and the Corpse Palace finally revealed their hidden intentions. They bared their fangs toward the various forces' leaders who were like sitting ducks. The beautiful dancers in the hall had already excused themselves. The ambience in the hall turned extremely quiet. Sheng Long and the Purple House Master quietly sat by the tables with ashen expressions on their faces. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang still had an extremely indifferent expression. Alliance Master Su Han. Guemo slowly looked over at Jian Wushuang while being seated at the highest position. What do Alliance Master Su Han think about my suggestion? Guemo stared at Jian Wushuang as Mo also looked over at him. They were already too lazy to care about Sheng Long and Purple Dress House Master. The Corpse Palace did not place much attention on Sheng Long and Purple Dress House Master, as those two representing the Divine Dragon Pavilion and Purple Dress House were like sitting ducks to them. They had to agree even if they did not want to. However, both palace masters still had to pay attention to the Sword Alliance Master. The Sword Alliance was formed around 1 year ago, but had already taken over 4 cities. Together with the fact that they had many experts in their alliance, they had already surpassed the Corpse Palace, with the only difference of the Sword Alliance not having any real peak heaven ultimate god until that point in time. Although Alliance Master Su Han was only a high-level heaven ultimate god, it was fortunate for them that his combat power was not weaker than peak heaven ultimate gods. I think what Palace Master Guemo said makes sense. A third-rated force is really not eye-catching in the Danyang continent and can disappear just like that. However, if all 4 forces can be integrated and form a singular force, our overall power will skyrocket. We won't be considered weak even amongst second-rated forces. At that time, we will have stronger powers in the Danyang continent with the possibility of getting more profits, said Jian Wushuang slowly. Oh, it looks like Alliance Master Su Han agrees. Guemo looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Alliance Master Su Han, Sheng Long, and the Purple Dress House Master also looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. They originally wanted to work together with the Corpse Palace and take action against the Sword Alliance. At that moment, they had planned to unite with the Sword Alliance and fight off Corpse Palace together upon observing the Corpse Palace's ambitions. Who knew that Su Han would agree with the union mentioned by Guemo? It's true that Sword Alliance, Su Han has the cardinal principles in his mind. It's no wonder the Sword Alliance can grow to such an extent in such a short time, with an alliance master like yourself. Guemo laughed heartily. I'm not done speaking yet. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. I agree with the union, and even the integration of all four forces. However, I wonder who'll be the leader of this new force. Can't Alliance Master Su Han see who'll be the leader? In this world, the strongest earns the most respect, and our Corpse Alliance is the strongest amongst our four forces, said Guemo with a smile. Jian Wushuang slowly stood up with a slight smile at the corners of his mouth as he spoke. Really? I don't think so. In my opinion, your Corpse Palace is also a third-rated force that's unpresentable. You're no different from the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang that I previously wiped out. The eyes of Guemo and Shuremo suddenly narrowed when they heard that. Alliance Master Su Han, are you challenging the Corpse Palace's authority? Shuremo coldly asked. Authority? A mere third-rated force dares talk about authority? You're just 2 old dogs together, with 2 peak heaven ultimate gods from Starfort. Do you plan to swallow up my Sword Alliance with such a lineup? You guys are really dreaming here. Jian Wushuang smiled in disdain. The moment he finished speaking, a wave of majestic divine power suddenly surged out of his body like an awakened god. This wave of overwhelming golden divine power concentrated speedily behind him. A humongous golden god shadow formed in the blink of an eye. The extremely tall 50,000 feet golden god shadow was not something the hall could contain. Therefore, the hall's upper part immediately blasted open upon its appearance. Do you want to fight? Shermo's eyes grew cold as the aura of a peak heaven ultimate god burst outward in an instant. Although they were all peak heaven ultimate god, Shermo's divine power was much stronger than the Purple Beast Alliance Master and 7 Absolute Palace Master, whom Jian Wushuang killed. Shermo's combat power was much stronger than ordinary peak heaven ultimate gods. Meanwhile, Sheng Long and the Purple Dress House Master's eyes suddenly lit up. The Corpse Palace had invited 2 helpers from the Star Fort, added to a total of 4 peak heaven ultimate gods. The 2 of them dared not fight against Corpse Palace as Shuremo was also incredibly strong. However, everything was different at that moment when Su Han took action. Although Su Han was just a high-level Heaven Ultimate God, he was someone who previously killed several peak Heaven Ultimate gods. He might even win in that fight against Shuremo. Chapter 2696. The Star Fort's FOU. You're really sure, Mo? This divine power alone is much stronger than any peak heaven ultimate gods. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently, as he could feel the striking strength Shuremo had. However, this degree of power isn't enough. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. Boom! A huge surge of golden divine power grew, and immediately turned into an endless sea of golden divine power. This golden divine power sea swept across and crazily impacted every direction. The huge hall they were at directly shattered under the impact, as the golden divine power sea continued to expand. Shuremo humphed coldly when he saw that before he unleashed a huge amount of gray aura following a humming sound. Those gray auras were strands of lifeless auras, stagnant and spiritless. It was the death law Shuremo comprehended and mastered. The gray strands of air engulfed their surroundings and crazily collided with Jian Wushuang's golden divine power sea. In a short time, they were stuck in a complete stalemate, as there was nothing they could do to each other. Your understanding of death law is extremely high to be able to block my golden divine power sea and prevent the golden prison's formation. How about this then? Jian Wushuang scoffed before a majestic sword essence exploded with a slight movement of his thoughts. The densely packed sword essence rushed straight into the skies and covered the entire territory in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang had opened up his perfect sword world that erupted completely before covering an entire area of 100,000 miles. Shuremo immediately displayed his principal world when he felt the shocking sword essence. His principal world was also of the profound achievement, but at first contact, clatter, Shuremo's principal world was mercilessly crushed without any chance of struggling. In the blink of an eye, Shuremo's principal world had crumbled from the suppression. A huge suppression affected Shuremo, such that even his facial expression changed. How's that possible? He had no idea Jian Wushuang's sword world would be so strong. Both our principal worlds are of the profound achievement. My principal world had been extended to at least 50,000 miles. But there was no room for it to even struggle. Could his principal world possibly have already extended to 70,000 or even 80,000 miles? Shuremo mumbled. Shuremo suffered a great suppression effect due to the complete collapse of his principal world, causing his overall strength to be weakened. The death law powers coming from him were also weakened. It was originally comparable to Jian Wushuang's golden divine power sea, and was in a stalemate. At that moment, he was steadily being defeated, and looked like it was going to completely disperse, allowing Jian Wushuang's golden prison to resume its formation once again. All of a sudden, boom! Another principal world exploded open. That principal world was much stronger than Shuremo's principal world. It directly rolled open and crazily impacted Jian Wushuang's sword world, without being at a disadvantage. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. The other party's principal world must have reached the complete level for it to fight against his perfect profound achievement sword world. Complete level principal world was the realization of ordinary grand ultimate god. Who's that? Jian Wushuang immediately looked over at the source where the principal world burst forth. A middle-aged man in green robes who gave off an extremely holy aura, as though being placed under the sunlight's shower, could be seen walking over slowly. The middle-aged man had an extremely charming smile on his face that caused people to be captivated by it. Everybody present could not help but look over at him after his appearance. This person, Jian Wushuang secretly relaxed after taking a look at that green-robed middle-aged man. Jian Wushuang originally thought he was a grand ultimate god, since he was capable of creating a complete level principal world. There was a possibility a grand ultimate god from Starfort was personally there. What happened today would be slightly troublesome if that was the case. However, that green-robed middle-aged man emitted divine powers at the peak heaven ultimate god realm. However, for his understanding of principle to be so high when he's just a peak heaven ultimate god only meant he would be extremely strong. Much stronger compared to Shuremo. Shuremo, I originally thought you can resolve this on your own based on your capabilities. Who knew I still had to personally take action in the end? The green-robed middle-aged man smiled indifferently as he spoke in his gentle yet prestigious voice. I don't want this, but Alliance Master Su Han is really strong, said Shuremo with a bitter smile. The green-robed middle-aged man slowly walked toward Shuremo, before turning his gaze towards Jian Wushuang without any emotions in his eyes. Su Han, allow me to introduce the person standing beside me. He's Fo Wu from Star Fort. I wonder if you've heard about him. Shuremo smiled coldly. Jian Wushuang did not react when the name Fo Wu was introduced. However, Sheng Long and the purple dress house master were surprised by it. Star Fort's Fo Wu? Heavenly Buddha Fo Wu? A huge wave of emotions convulsed through their hearts. The name Fo Wu was extremely well known in the entire Danyang continent, and both of them had heard about him. Heavenly Buddha Fo Wu was the preeminent figure, just second to the Star Fort Master. Although he was only a peak heaven ultimate god, it was rumored he managed to survive 1 or 2 moves, even when met the ordinary primary level grand ultimate gods. Among the many peak heaven ultimate god experts in the entire Danyang continent, Fo Wu was good enough to be in the top 10. It had to be mentioned that the Danyang continent had a vast territory with many forces, having a peak heaven ultimate god, overseeing ordinary third-rated forces. There were a huge number of heaven ultimate gods in those forces, and Fo Wu's capability to be in the top 10 among peak heaven ultimate gods was not something any normal person could achieve. *T. The Corpse Palace invited Fo Wu over? This Fo Wu is rumored to be capable of wiping out a group of ordinary peak heaven ultimate gods by himself. Even if Su Han is willing to work with the two of us, we'll only be wiped out by Fo Wu. Sheng Long and the purple dress house master were at the brink of desperation. They were still hopeful if only 2 peak heaven ultimate gods from Star Fort were sent there. There was a possibility of them walking out of the Corpse Palace if Su Han was sufficiently strong. However, they could not see any hope at that moment with Fo Wu personally being there. Fo Wu looked extremely composed even when he was being stared at by the crowd, and condescendingly looked at Jian Wushuang. You're Su Han. I've previously heard about you from Shuremo. It's really rare for a high-level heaven ultimate god to have such power. I can ensure a good future for you if you're willing to join our Star Fort. Chapter 2697. The fight with Fou a good future? You people are just a second-rated force. What sort of good future will there be? Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. You're Fou, right? I really want to see how capable you are that enables you to speak to me like that. The infernal crimson divine swords appeared in front of Jian Wushuang one by one, with a total of 9 infernal crimson divine swords. These 9 infernal crimson divine swords merged, and a huge black divine sword came bursting through the reincarnation passage, before traveling through the void, and appeared in front of Fou in the blink of an eye. The black divine sword was incredibly strong, such that an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god would not dare look down at it when they see it. However, Fou smiled in disdain as a phantom sword figure formed with the wave of his hand and collided head-on with the black divine sword. As a result, the black divine sword was instantly sent flying outward. The entire sword was trembling crazily, as though it was going to break apart. You're really quite strong. Jian Wushuang focused his sight. His reincarnation sword formation was very strong, valiant, and extremely powerful under his full force. However, Fou had yet to unveil his mystical weapon, but already could almost break the reincarnation sword formation with the phantom sword formed from his hand wave. There really were not many people who could achieve such strength among peak heaven ultimate gods. Show me whatever tricks you have up your sleeves, or you won't have your chance anymore. Fou was still bathed under the sunshine, and looked as though he was high above the rest in an extremely detached state. Jian Wushuang's body slightly trembled before activating the 7 stars secret technique. His divine power was raised to another level upon activating the 7 stars secret technique. At the same time, a layer of golden armor covered his body amidst surging golden lights that surrounded the entire sky. He had activated all the secret techniques he owned. The 7 stars secret technique, the 9 sparkle star armor golden armor chapter, and the divine god of punishment. Jian Wushuang softly yelled, "Let's try again." The black divine sword slightly trembled before bursting out once again. The difference being the black divine sword was much stronger than how it previously was. The 7 stars secret technique had improved his strength by an entire realm. The 9 sparkle star armor's golden armor chapter had raised his combat power by 3 times. The current Jian Wushuang was completely different from his previous self. Fou waved his hand again when he saw the black divine sword once again headed over. A phantom sword swept over just like what had happened moments ago. However, it was slightly brighter than the previous. Both parties collided once again and resulted in bang! The phantom sword directly dimmed down and exploded while the black divine sword continued traveling towards Fou to carry out its attack. Fou slightly frowned and directly attacked using his palm as a sword replacement. Clank! The enormous phantom sword almost separated the void into 2 halves. Clank! A loud metal collision sound was heard before the black divine sword was sent retreating in a shiver. However, Fou's figure was also sent 2 steps backward. Fou stabilized himself after stepping back 2 steps before looking at his slightly tingling palm with an indifferent smile. This is much more interesting. Fou finally took his mystical weapon out. It was a crimson-red battle saber that looked as though it was burning in flames when they first laid eyes on it. Apart from that, Fou's sacred aura skyrocketed as a huge red sun appeared behind him. That crimson red sun was like the scorching sun rising in the morning that silently suspended behind Fou. A red light appeared in Fou's eyes as he raised his head. Boom! The frightening saber essence suddenly rose. The crimson red battle saber suddenly took action. The blade directly fell downward. Just like the morning sun rising from the east, the red light shone and lit up the entire sky. Jian Wushuang had a serious look on his face. His overwhelming divine power surged outward as the black divine sword's strength rose once again, before headed directly towards the sword with the speed of a meteor falling from the sky. Bang! The violent bang roared in the vast sky. It was as though 2 stars had crazily knocked into each other. The surrounding hall had already broken apart to the extent it had affected the huge buildings around it. Those buildings were also crushed into powder, following the attack's aftermath. Many of Corpse Palace experts rose to the sky in fright, and had already escaped to the distant void from the battlefield. They looked at that scene with widened eyes. Both Sheng Long and the purple dress house master also retreated to the void nearby. Unfortunately, the two of them could not make any moves as Guemo and the other two Peak Heaven ultimate gods from Star Fort were standing beside them, giving them no escaping chances. In the middle of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang looked slightly dire. He had just escaped from a blast before a figure under the red sun's cover had come chasing after him. Fo Wu was holding his battle saber in one hand, whilst his facial expression turned cold. A murderous hint appeared in his eyes. Prepare to die. Fo Wu yelled softly. The original young sun that had risen from the east turned into a scorching hot one in the blink of an eye, and was burning the entire land. The saber light that swung from Fo Wu's hand had also completely spread out while carrying a raging fire. All the surrounding void turned into a sea of fire upon the appearance of the saber light. As for Jian Wushuang, he suffered the scariest attack amidst the fire. Boom! Endless power came surging from all sides and pushed against Jian Wushuang's body. Jian Wushuang was unable to withstand that degree of attack. He could only rely on his physical protective abilities and forcefully withstand the attack with his own body. Finally, the sea of fire slowly dispersed as heaven and earth calmed down. A humongous red sun was still behind Fo Wu as he stared at the void in front of him, before a human figure slowly appeared. Fo Wu was doubtful when he first saw that figure before being surprised by it. In the end, all his emotions turned into disbelief. He might not have died, but why isn't he hurt at all? Fo Wu had indeed seen clearly that Jian Wushuang's divine body did not suffer any harm. He had double armors covering his body. The golden armor on the outer level had already crumbled, but his life armor did not suffer any major damages. His aura did not even suffer and weakened in the slight. Impossible. My attack just now had injured him. No matter how strong his physical protective abilities are, he can't be unharmed. Fo Wu stared at Jian Wushuang. He had no idea that Jian Wushuang had the perfect immortal body, as a perfect chaotic creature. He would immediately recover from any wounds, as long as his divine power was abundant. Jian Wushuang was wounded by the blow just moments ago. However, he recovered in an instant with divine power to the extent it looked as though nothing had happened to him. Fo Wu, I've to admit that you're really strong. Jian Wushuang stood in the void and had a cold look in his eyes as he looked toward Fo Wu. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.